presents a spoiler cast of The Last of Us Part 2. The first time we've ever done this. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
I have a lot of feelings like everyone on the internet, and I'm so excited to do a spoiler cast finally.
Finally. Sorry, it took me 8 days to beat the game. I apologize.
Man, dude, I've been just, like, me and Sarah, we played the first game over a weekend, and we've been talking about it, like, literally every single night. And because it took you so long, Dave, I've been having to look at Twitter and pick fights with strangers.
All right, here is your only warning. We are going to 100% spoil The Last of Us. This will show up on the podcast feed. It'll show up with different artwork, similar to the PlayStation reveal, PlayStation 5 reveal, the Division content we've done, the Destiny show that I've done, etc., etc. So if you have not finished The Last of Us, hence the word finished, do not go any farther. Stop. Put this away, delete it, re-download it later. Hell, we'll take 2 downloads out of it.
Yep.
Just do not listen to this until you have played and finished the game. I guess the only exception would be if you ever have any intention of not playing this game at all. But if you are playing this game and you're like, oh, I'm far enough along, it's okay. It's not okay. So you need to finish the game, please. And then real quick before you just delete, just to give a perspective, I think when I checked on my save files, mine was like 29 and a half hours, and I think you said you were like 26 or something?
28 and 9 minutes.
Yeah.
I just know that because I was looking at it earlier.
Yeah, so roughly about 30 hours in. So depending on how you play, if you're slow, methodical, if you're at the 15 or 20 hour mark, there's still a significant chunk of this game that you're missing, and I highly, highly recommend that you finish the game and then listen to this.
Yeah, actually play the game. A lot of controversy online is from people that have not played the game and are going off leaks, which me and Dave talked about several times over the last couple months as The Last of Us has had its leaks and everything. You need to play this game to like fully break down what's going on, and that's what me and Dave are going to do. And we don't know how long this is going to be. This is going to take as long as it needs to go.
So, yep. As always, if you're still listening, all of our social links are in the show notes. So please follow us on the social medias, Facebooks, Twitters. Support Patreon if you choose, Twitch, YouTube, the whole 9. Any of that is always appreciated, and sharing and reviewing the show is appreciated. You guys help us hit a really cool milestone for the month of June. So we really, really appreciate that. And just know it was a goal that Michael and I set for a couple more months from now, and we hit it already. So we're both pretty happy. So that's a huge tribute to you guys. And if you're new, if maybe this is the first time you're listening to us, check out some of our other numbered episodes, either before or after this, and leave us a review and share the show if you like it, and send us some feedback. We'd always appreciate it. So, all right. So today is, what is today? So today is June 28th, and it's a Sunday, and the game came out on June 19th. So it took me 9 days to beat it. I beat it. Today is, like I said, a Sunday, and I beat it this Sunday morning. So I've only, Michael made it very important to me that he goes, we're not recording this 5 minutes after you beat the game. You need a little bit of time to simmer on it. And so we took some time to simmer, and we'd always kind of set this week as a goal to record, and scheduling's lined up. So again, warning, we're going to talk about every aspect of this game. So do not tweet at us and say, I didn't know. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, it's going to say spoiler cast in the title. It's going to have it in the description. And Dave said it already like 3 times now, so we don't want to hear shit.
All right, so Last of Us. Last of Us Part 2. So I think, first off, the first thing I think we need to talk about is that unlike other games, other sequels, similar games, and not similar because there's really nothing similar to The Last of Us, I think you really do have to have played this first game to understand what's going on in this game. Do you agree?
Oh, for sure. You need to know Joel and Ellie's journey. They explain it well enough in the second game, but you need the first game for context. You need it to get the full emotional effect of what's happening, and also to see some of the outrage you're seeing from other people online about why they feel so passionately about some of the things that happen in this game. Not the crazy ones that haven't played the game, but just why there's such a weird or rabid reaction to this game, either for or against it. It's because everything that happened in that first game directly affects this game. It is a true sequel. It's not a standalone, separate thing. It is
Well, I mean,
picking up where things left off.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I say this is like in comparison, and again, they're not like in previous Naughty Dog games of all the Uncharted games. I feel like that, like I think I even started with Uncharted 2 was the first one I played, and then I went back and played 1, and I got some better context and some better understanding about it. But I feel like if you just picked up Last of Us Part 2 and you never played the first one, you could feel very lost for quite a while.
Yeah, you would have a totally, completely different experience than everyone else. Things won't hit as hard as they're meant to hit you in this game without playing the first one, and you're only getting half of Ellie's story
Right.
At that point, because this Ellie has a full story over the course of 2 games, or 2 games and an expansion pass DLC. So yeah, you definitely need that one, because without it, you're just lost. I mean, at its core, this is a fucking really good stealth action game, gameplay wise. So from a pure mechanics point, you can probably have fun. But
you played stealth. I played run and gun.
No, I played mostly stealth, but like I'm doing a second playthrough and I'm running and gunning with the bow, and it's real fun.
Yeah.
But like in terms of Naughty Dog games, this is probably the best gameplay mechanic game they've made to date.
Yeah, I saw some videos and stuff on Twitter when I started looking around a little bit heavier today after I beat the game, of some combat of like Ellie and Abby, like both kind of like diving and sliding a little bit. And I never had those situations where I was able to I got knocked down, and when I would get shot, I would slide back, and I felt like I could sometimes be on my back and shoot. But then I felt like my character would get up really quick, and I kind of saw somebody almost like jump or slide and then kind of slide out of from behind cover a little bit. And I don't really know how they did that.
I've had a couple of those moments. They're definitely, because of the size and scope of this game compared to the first one, the areas are way more open, so there's way more opportunities and pathways for you to take. And there's definitely sections of the game on my second playthrough I'm a little bit more daring, because I already beat the game. I don't have to worry about, failing, that I'm taking more chances and doing some of the cooler stuff, especially because I'm running and gunning. But there's so much detail in this game, and the world is so much bigger now that you can see multiple playthroughs, and you can be a total badass action hero in this game, especially when you play Abby, because the level of detail with Abby is crazy, because she is a soldier compared to Ellie, who's a scrapper.
Yeah.
So there's great level of detail in how this game plays, and I stand by. I think this is like the best plain Naughty Dog game to date. Uncharted 4 was really good gameplay mechanic wise, but this one so good.
Yeah. All right, so the game kicks off with you being in Jackson, I believe it's Wyoming or Colorado.
I think it's still in Washington, isn't it?
No, it's the Seattle, Washington. But I thought that they're at but I thought Jackson was in Colorado.
It might be. I mean, the first game goes from Boston to Salt Lake City, so it's not too crazy. And
it starts with showing like introducing you to the new characters that they're showing. Jesse's waking Ellie up, getting Ellie ready to go on patrol with him. Jesse's a new character that's obviously has grown up in the world. Well, I guess it starts with Joel bringing a guitar to Ellie and kind of going over and talking about how he's gonna teach her how to play guitar. And the first vibe that I got from this, and my wife, full disclosure, my wife watched the entire playthrough of me playing this game on the couch with me, is that something's felt somewhat off in their dynamic, in their relationship, in terms of how they were communicating with each other, compared to how they communicated with each other in the first game.
Which is direct correlation to how the first game ended. I will say the story is told out of order in this game, which I usually don't like, but I think it's done really well here. It can get a little confusing towards the end and like middle of the game, but this starts off in the past, where Joel is giving Ellie.
It starts off right after the events, essentially like a month or two after the events at the Firefly Hospital of the ending of Last of Us 1. And it starts with Joel having a conversation with Tommy, pretty much telling Tommy exactly what happened.
Yeah. And for those that don't know what happened, Joel was given the task as a smuggler to bring Ellie to the Fireflies in Salt Lake City because Ellie is immune to the infection that has devastated the world. And through that journey, when he gets to the hospital, he finds out that they are going to need to kill Ellie, essentially, because it's the only way for them to test to hopefully work out on work a vaccine. And Joel doesn't want to let Ellie go because he got attached to her. He saw his daughter who died in Ellie, so Joel basically kills the entire hospital and takes Ellie out, which is where the relationship gets strained, because Ellie, at the end of the first one, basically asks Joel what happened, and Joel lies, and the game ends with Ellie's face just kind of
It didn't work.
knowing. Yeah.
That's what he told
knowing
me.
that it's a lie, but doesn't, we don't know what happens. And this game immediately starts with their relationship is strained. Ellie knows something is up. She doesn't quite know what's up, but she will eventually. And you see Joel teaching Ellie how to play guitar as a way to like connect with her, and then plays a Pearl Jam song to kind of express his feelings about the situation. Which, if you listen to the lyrics of that song, it's very clear. He's talking about Ellie in the song.
Did you like the guitar playing mechanic?
I did.
I hated it.
I didn't mind it at first. It depends.
I thought it was really cool implementation of the touchpad, which not very many games do.
I liked it, but I liked it for it felt like Naughty Dog showing off, because you see how much detail they put into like the finger animations, and they were using actual strumming of the guitar.
And our art match.
Basically, that's what it felt like. It felt like they were showing off, and they're like, yeah, their hands are going to move exactly how you're playing it. Because you can mess around, and there's really cool YouTube compilations of people playing different songs on the guitar, which I think is
the first time I did
insane.
it, I was like, okay, like this is kind of cool, like that's interesting. And then the couple other times you had to do it, I was like, okay, this is kind of getting a little bit mundane, a little boring. But that's neither here nor there. It was what they did with it a couple of times outside of the mechanic in terms of the storytelling, I thought was really cool.
So after we get the little touching guitar scene with Joe and Ellie, the game fast forwards 4 years, I believe.
Yes.
To the present day, and that is when Jesse wakes up Ellie, because they have to do their daily routine, because they all now live in Jackson, Wyoming. You're right, it is in Wyoming. And basically the city that they're in, which seems like Tommy and Tommy's wife kind of run it. Marie
or Tommy's
seems
wife.
like she might. Yeah, Tommy's wife. I assume that Marie is like the sheriff mayor, and Tommy's just like the sniper guy who's like doing the like preventative measure stuff that they do.
And again, Tommy is Joel's brother.
Joel's brother, yeah.
Just as a reference. We might assume that you guys know a couple of things, so sorry if we do that. So.
Yeah. And we get a sense of like where Joel and Ellie live, and they have a pretty normal life considering the circumstances of the world. Jackson is a fully protected town in terms of like fencing. It's in a mountainous area, which helps protect them as well. And it's got electricity, plenty of soldiers. It seems like it's a pretty normal life. Kids are out in the streets playing. And then this is when we get introduced to Dina, which is Ellie's love interest, and Jesse's ex, which is... I have mixed feelings about that dynamic. I thought it was maybe a little unnecessary to also have Jesse be Dina's ex, but it works out in the end for me.
So then
that sounds bad.
Yeah.
Given what we'll talk about later, but
so they're essentially kind of setting up like what's going on and how things are functioning, and you get a really good take about how Jackson works. There's a skirmish in town with like the local bartender and her name's escaping me. Tommy's wife, essentially Marie. Yeah, she kind of deals with it and tries to squash it right at the bat. And then in kind of fun Naughty Dog way, showing off some cool tech. You kind of get to do that quick snowball fight with the kids, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
and then you go out on, there's a little bit of patrolling, reassigning done. Jesse is sent to go check in on Tommy and Joel, who are out on patrol, and they're not back as soon as they should have been. And so you get teamed up with Dina to go on what is presented as an easier route.
Yeah,
and then
it was just a check-in route, really.
Yeah.
Like, just make it to the checkpoint, sign off, go back home.
Yeah. And then they use this is the first one of their kind of their storyboard mechanics, is they use the horseback riding to as conversational pieces, similar to in the first game, how there was a lot of walking for Joel and Ellie from certain points, and that's when the conversations were happening. I felt like a lot of the conversations that Naughty Dog wanted to tell during this game happened while on horseback for this part of the game.
You learn a lot about what's happening in the world. You learn that Ellie was in a relationship before with someone named Kat, who also seems to be the tattoo artist that covered up Ellie's bite. You also learn that Dina and Ellie shared their first kiss the previous night at a dance. So you get a little bit of establishment, and you also learn that, from the time with Jesse, that Dina and Jesse just broke up a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Ellie's kind of feeling out Jesse, and Jesse's kind of messing with her a little bit in terms of like how Jesse feels about Dina kissing Ellie. So you get a lot of little relationship drama. Drama might not be the best word, because Jesse seems cool as fuck in this game, in terms of like just letting everything slide, in terms of like his ex is now dating his best friend, or one of his best friends. So you get a little bit of relationship stuff here. This is definitely an area that as you're walking around, I was kind of happy taking it slow and going through all the conversation options, because if you linger, you get a couple more conversations.
Almost like they're whispering about things that are going on, and if you get close enough, you can hear it.
Yeah. Then the game jumps to Abby, or we don't know who she is just yet.
Woman. So
this says woman.
When I play with subtitles on, and I do play with subtitles on, it's just easier sometimes for myself, and it's also easier for Angela. And they would, you had the option to sit there and say, like, you could just put the words up there, or they could say who's saying it, and I chose them to say who's saying it. And they at first, because you don't know who this person is, they refer to her on the subtitles as woman.
Yeah, woman and man, because Owen is there. And then, as I love, though, because I had subtitles on as well, once they say each other's name, it changes from woman and man to Abby and Owen, which I'm sure a lot of things do that, but I don't know, for some reason I like that. Yeah. And also the accessibility options was really good. You can change like how the subtitles work. You can change the color of the subtitles. So there's a lot of cool accessibility stuff there.
So you're greeted to a cutscene with Abby and Owen. Owen is awake. He's looking out. He's staying at some kind of, like, it looks like just like a ski lodge style mansion, that they're kind of a gated house, and there's a crew of them that are there. And Owen seems to, and I, for some reason it's slipping me on my mind right now, but Owen has seemed to have found something. Oh no, he found Jackson.
Yeah, he found Jackson.
Yeah,
they're looking for Jackson, looking for
something
a man.
else. And so he's like, "Hey, I want to show you something." And they take they go out on this adventure, and you're kind of learning how to move and traverse in the snow. A really cool tech, by the way. So in terms of, like, you could see where you walked and everything. And you were kind of jumping a little bit. You were introduced. Was this the first time that we saw some runners and clickers?
Yeah, because you go through a house. You basically get the
tutorial style combat.
Yeah, like the fist fight tutorial, because they don't really. I think Abby just has a pistol.
Yeah, you learn how to. Yeah, you learn how to dodge. You learn how to dodge in melee, which dodge is something new in this game compared to the first one. So, I mean, I don't want to go like bore you guys. So you're moving through this progress, and they see Jackson, and this is where you start to see, like, Abby is, ready to go. Like, she's like, let's go, and he's like, no, we got to go back and strategize this and plan this out, and because they're pretty confident they found whatever they're looking for, and at the present time, you really don't know what they're looking for. They just say that he has to be there. So
yeah, I don't know if I took this away just because by the end of the game, when I think back to that first scene and playing it on my second playthrough with them overlooking at Jackson, did you get the feeling that they were kind of surprised at, like, Jackson being like a town with electricity, being a very peaceful town. They almost sounded surprised and maybe a little disgusted.
I think based on what we know where they came from, because we end up spending a lot of time where they came from, I think it's definitely like they look at something like, wow, that's like, I feel like you're right. Like that was like a lot more established maybe than they were expecting.
Yeah, and then especially when we get context later, as far as they know, the person they're looking for, which spoiler, it's Joe. As far as they know, Joel is a son of a bitch that like damned humanity, and the idea that he's living comfortable in this Jackson town bothers them. And I don't know if maybe I'm picking up too much or looking into something too much, but I got the vibe that they're like annoyed Jackson is so well established.
He can't be there. Like that, like
this is crazy.
Yeah. So, and then there's a point where Owen and Abby get like they separate themselves, and Abby's trying to make it back to the mansion. I think Owen's ready to go check it out, and Abby wants to get the crew up and kind of let them in and be prepared and wait for it.
Yeah. So Owen wants to prepare them, but Abby sees lights in a lookout post, and she wants to go there right away to see who's in that lookout post. Yeah. And Owen wants to wait for the crew.
Yeah.
Owen wants to go in more prepared because Owen doesn't. We learn later Owen doesn't really want to do this. No one on a crew really wants to do this, but they're doing it for Abby.
All right.
And a little bit of revenge. But yeah, and then Abby's just like, no, fuck it. You can go back to the mansion, but I'm gonna look further. And that's when I think then we cut back to Ellie and Dina.
Well, she gets caught in a snowstorm though, right?
Yeah, the snowstorm happens, but I don't think we quite see what happens with them. We jump back to Ellie and Dina, see their snowstorm, and then we jump to Abby's snowstorm. If this wiki that I'm looking up just as a guide to lead us through this, but yeah, then we jump to the first outpost, because this game jumps back and forth from perspectives in the first like hour or 2 hours quite frequently, and we just get more world building from Dina and Ellie. We get a look out at Jackson. Depending on how deep you're reading the notes, you learn about like Eugene, who is an older guy, older ex-Firefly, who died of old age, or a stroke at old age, and Ellie and Dina kind of glamorize that, which I thought was like super dark. But that's just the world they live in.
He died of natural causes. He didn't die to anything. Yeah,
and they're kind of like, that's the way to go, which is scary in this world of just like the idea of dying at old age just seems like an impossibility that you want to fantasize about. And at this point, Ellie and Dina are just kind of exploring around and fighting the infected. There's some basic stuff. This is your first area that is pretty open, where there's like a little neighborhood with like a trailer and a 2 flat buildings, so you can pick up notes and start to get this the world building stuff that was done in the first game, where you just find letters of people before the outbreak and sometimes during the outbreak. But then the snowstorm happens, and Dina and Ellie have to find shelter, which leads them to a library / weed farm.
Greenhouse.
Greenhouse that was built by Eugene in the basement of a library, this is one of my favorite scenes in the game. It's a really cool character building scene with Dina and Ellie.
Yeah, and just their relationship and establishing their relationship of what why they like each other, what they how they're kind of like opposites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ellie's a little bit more reserved. Dina's a little bit more outgoing. Ellie, this has like kind of a heartbreaking scene, or like kind of sad, where they're trading stories back and forth, about like the times they've gotten hurt. And Ellie actually opens up to someone for the first time, and says that the the under her tattoo is a bite mark that she put acid over to cover it, and Dina doesn't believe her and kind of thinks she's fucking around, kind of messing around and joking. And I thought that was kind of heartbreaking and sad, just because it's like Ellie like lowering down her shield basically, and Dina just not being able to believe that someone could get bit and be immune. But before that can get any further, Jesse comes in to let them know that they need to go find Joel and Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get a cut. We go back to Abby's perspective and get Abby in a snowstorm, and she just happens to run into Joel and Tommy and a horde of infected. I don't know if you want to walk us through some of your thoughts.
So you're kind of traversing, and again, I struggled with this a little bit because and I don't remember enough of playing Last of Us, the first game, is that, you know, like you playing through the first one, I was a lot more slow and methodical because it was a little bit more linear than you kind of talk about how open some of these areas are. And I feel like when you're running through something or rushing through something, like I was always had that worry of I was missing something. And obviously you've got a couple runners and clickers chasing you, and you're moving, trying to traverse through and hope that you're going in the right direction. I feel like the game kind of camera angle kind of guides you in the correct direction when you're running in this situation, and you end up, getting near some of these buildings, and you're trying to like squeeze through, between a fence and a building, and some of the infected start pushing on the fence, and you've gotten grabbed, and then somebody all of a sudden shows up to help you, and it's Tommy and it's Joel, and in order to get you away from that scenario, they're just helping somebody that they don't know anything about, and they try to fight off the herd a little bit, and then they get on the horses and they take off, and Abby leads them to their building, to the mansion that they're staying at, they come in there. They set off a couple. They close the gate. They set off a couple bombs to get the infected away, and they bring them in. And it seems like everything's okay. Like, okay, they're bringing one of our people back, and they're helping them, and they're walking him in there, and then they bring him in, and they start talking to him about, hey, you guys should just come to Jackson, and then so that confirms that they're from Jackson, and then Tommy introduces himself as Tommy and Joel, and that starts the part where they essentially grab Tommy, and Abby shoots Joel in the knee
with a shotgun. It's gnarly. Like it is very detailed when you look at his knee. It's this emphasizes like so a lot of people I've been seeing online are upset that Joel, this badass from the first game, was taken out relatively easy in this game, but I think that's just to emphasize how different Joel is from the first game to the second game. Joel in the first game, his humanity's lost after his daughter dies. Like, he is just a smuggler doing jobs to make it by, and Ellie gives him some humanity back, and he lets his guard down.
Jackson gives him humanity back as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to, is he got to go back to a close to normal society where we later learn. Sorry, I'm going to say later we learn, because it's just how this game is with jumping time. But
plus, we would be all over the place, and you guys would be lost.
Yeah, because I would be jumping back and be like, "Oh, remember when I said this?" We learn that Joel is he's just kind of like a woodworker now. He makes guitars on the side. He makes like little statues, and he hasn't had to worry about someone coming to kill him. And we learn that Jackson is actually very welcoming of stragglers, of refugees. Like, they will take you in as long as you're not infected, and you can find a place in Jackson. And that's not the case in Seattle, where Abby's group is from. The entire time you're in Seattle, you just hear about the WLF, or the Wolf Organization, just killing people on sight. Like, if they see someone that is not with their organization, they will kill on sight, because they are in the middle of a war for land. So it's a completely different dynamic, and Joel is completely different. He's been able to let his guard down and been able to just be more trusting of people. Especially, he just saved Abby from a horde of zombies. So the last thing on your mind, your brain would be in fight or flight mode, getting away from the horde. That you're gonna let your guard down if someone's holding up a gate and they're saying "come here" and there's a horde of infected chasing you. You're gonna go in.
Yeah. And they have a garage for your horse, and they tie your horse off, and they start brushing your horse and cleaning your horses for you.
Yeah. And he let his guard down, and soon as Abby found out it was Joel and his name was said, the whole room changes. Like, everyone gets shifty, and Joel immediately is like, I guess he heard of us, sort of thing. And that's when Abby just shoots him, and it's brutal. And Abby is looking to punish Joel, and only Joel, as much as possible, because she makes them is a suture, is that the word I'm looking for? Makes them tie a belt off Joel's leg so he doesn't bleed to death, and so Abby can torture him. So. Tourniquet, yeah. And they do that so then Abby can beat Joel with a golf club, and it is fucking brutal. Mm-hmm. It's uncomfortable, but it makes sense for this world. Yeah. And Abby's
and then they immediately switch back to Ellie again, and Ellie's caught in the snowstorm of Jesse and Dina have decided to go 3 different directions. Actually, I think at this point in time the snowstorm has calmed down, and the direction that Ellie is going, she finds the building, the mansion, and she's going to check it out to see if Joel's in there. Maybe he hid in there during the snowstorm. So she gets in there into the mansion, and she hears a lot of screaming. She kind of clears the house a little bit, and you go down these steps, and you enter the room, and then you're immediately then grabbed. And I don't think that Ellie at that point in time is really recognized as being the immune one by anybody.
No, no one knows until later on.
Yeah, but they definitely end up holding her down, and she gets Tommy and her get to watch Joel be killed by a golf club.
Yes, very brutal, very quick. Joel at that point they show it too. It was really hard to watch because we were attached to Joel. We played a whole game as Joel. Just seeing his head just kind of caved in already and beat up. And then Ellie has to watch that. And as far as she knows, Tommy's dead because Tommy's like knocked out because one of them like bashes Tommy's head in with like the end of her gun. Nora, I think, is the one that does that. So as far as she knows, Tommy's dead too, and she's just watching Joel get killed. And after Joel gets killed, I think Manny, one of the people, I think it says man in the subtitles, but we'd learn later it's Manny. He's going to go kill Ellie, but Owen stops because they only came for Joel, and then Abby agrees to let Ellie live. And then they leave, and we find out in the next scene that Joel is dead, Tommy's still alive, and we learn more about Joel's past. We go to Joel's house and see all the woodworking he was doing, the guitar building, and we basically see Ellie grieving for Joel. It's really tough, this whole section. I don't know how you and Angela were dealing with it, but it was tough to watch, especially if you guys were attached to Joel.
Yeah, I mean, it'd been a long time since we played the first one. It was definitely something that there was always been that speculation that Joel was dead in all the trailers and everything like that they were showing, that it was, she was imagining him, or she was having like dreams. So there was always kind of that speculation. None of that was actually spoiled for me. So I was able to avoid most of that stuff. So I didn't know. It was definitely surprising, but I guess for me, not unexpected, because I was kind of waiting for that holy crap moment early on in the game that they did with Last of Us, the first one,
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was definitely one of those things where I enjoyed the first game. I was attached to the characters, but like seeing Joel get like killed like that was definitely hard to watch. But I had to like put into context the idea that Joel, we consider Joel a good guy because we played as him in the first game, and Ellie is a child, and for the most part, or like innocent because she is a child in this world. But we can't forget, like, the Joel in the first game doesn't have much humanity until
he does whatever
the
he
end.
can do for money. So
Yeah. And at the end, when he does find his humanity, when he does become a good person, it still involves him damning humanity by killing, like, doctors to save Ellie. So he does a good deed to save. He does a good deed in saving Ellie, but in order to do that good deed, he needs to do some horrible things. And not only does he, like, kill the doctors and all that stuff, that immediately leads to the disbandment of the Fireflies, who were the big organization in the first game. And it also, not only did he kill their chance then, but the only people that could have possibly have found a vaccine died in that hospital, or at least for, as far as we know, for like the United States.
mm-hmm.
You know, like the people that could have potentially found a cure died in that hospital. So I think we see a little bit of that, to where Joel knows that too, because he's kind of accepting of the situation in that room. He's not super angry about it. He's kind of welcoming of death just to kind of get it over with. I don't know if you got that vibe as well, but, you know, when Abby has him against the window, he's just like, let's just get this over with. Like, he just seems like he just wants it done.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know if that's because he wanted it done because he knows, like, it was coming. Like, he had to know, kind of, like, his day would have been up eventually, like, or he just wanted it over with just so Ellie isn't involved, because, you know, like, he doesn't know if they're coming after Ellie. Maybe he'll die with him in that room, as far as he knows, and it very well could have, but then we wouldn't have a full video game. So, yeah, I see why people were upset that Joel dies, but it makes perfect sense for this world, that Joel would get some sort of comeuppance, given what he did in the game.
Yep.
So that's just my talk about Joel. Just like, I love Joel. Don't get me wrong. I like him as a character, but I have to accept that, like, he isn't a good dude.
Right.
He becomes a good dude, but he lived his life very bad in the post-apocalypse or whatever.
Yeah. So obviously that's the huge foundation piece for the story, is that Joel is killed by Abby, who's a member of the WLF. And then they fast forward a little bit, like a day or two. Tommy's talking to Ellie, and it's essentially trying to talk Ellie out of going after them. And Ellie's not going to just let him get away with it. And they said, all of our intel says that they're all the way in Seattle. That's really far for you to go by yourself, and, you know, like, and all this stuff. And trying to talk her out of it, because Jackson won't send a team. It's too risky to send a team after these people because of all the things that need to go to keep Jackson moving.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out, like, you know, Ellie's gonna go. Like you said, she goes to Joel's house to look for some stuff. She's met by Maria. Maria pretty much tells her, like, okay, well, you can go, because Tommy left this morning and didn't tell me that he was leaving. So she pretty much sends her to go get her husband. And then Dina decides to come with her, and then they, in typical, like they've done in the other Last of Us games, you go from Wyoming to Washington like that.
Yeah, we don't know how much time passed for it. We assume a couple days, but we just jumped to Seattle.
Yep. So then, very importantly, we get this text on the screen that says Seattle, day one. So you get to Seattle, and you're getting close to, obviously, where the WLF are. And it's a large quarantine zone that's there. And, you know, again, you're still on horseback ride, and you're doing some puzzle solving to get into a very complex open world area, I would say.
Yeah. So Seattle's basically been turned into a QZ, a quarantine zone, and it's broken down into sections with several gates protecting it, and all the puzzles are just you getting power to open gates and trying to get gas to power generators, all stuff we've like seen before.
Throwing cords, electrical cords over things or through things, unplugging and replugging, just your basic, third person puzzle platform solving games. So nothing too extensive there. Interesting conversations back and forth between Dina and Ellie, just like normal. All this is story building, relationship building, just getting an understanding and building building your care for the characters. All while discovering weapons and learning about the kind of things that were going on in the Seattle. The thing that was the most jarring to me during the entire time of playing the game, and I don't remember it being this as crazy as this was in the first game, and it leads me to wonder like what really happened in Seattle. But the some of these buildings were just completely decimated, like blown up.
Yeah, okay. So they do explain this in a side, like when you're going through Seattle, there's like an offhand comment that's just real quick, and it sounds like it's such a normal thing that it didn't shock any of the characters. So it's either Dina asks Ellie like what happened here, and Ellie just offhand says like once they thought they had the infection quarantined off, the government just bombed cities to hell. So if you weren't in a quarantine zone,
I remember that now.
Yeah, they dropped bombs if you weren't on the non-quarantine zones, in hopes that this kills the infected. But as we learn through all the notes, and there's so many notes, there's so many side things. We'll talk a little bit about that because me and Dave had some different experiences with that, and you find out that like the quarantine zones weren't properly set up. They didn't account for proper amount of rations, and it just led to a lot of other issues outside of the infected, running out of food, running out of like ammo, and just the usual shit that humanity will do in situations.
It started the exploration and you discovering things, upgrading your characters, upgrading Ellie, learning about stuff, as you said, reading through the letters. And this is where a little bit of the FOMO for me set in of like, okay, like what am I missing? The game did a great job. Like some of the cool mechanics in the game, the map was a great tool.
I hated the map.
The drawing on the map was great, I felt.
Okay.
And then knowing when you left a building, when she pulled the map out and crossed it off, knowing that you got everything out of that building.
Yes, I like that aspect. Like you would get a verbal confirmation of, I think that's everything. You'll get a little pop-up on your screen that said areas cleared and should mark it off on a map. I love that aspect.
Trying to get to areas on the map that they drew on was a little annoying. So
yes, that's what I hated about the map.
I still think there was one or two areas that I couldn't get to. And then one area that I got to like accidentally, like not even realizing that I got there.
Yeah, I was annoyed. One of the coolest scenes is in the music store. That's where the infamous "Take on Me" cover is. I miss that.
So you're talking about Ellie played a song for Dina.
Yes, Ellie played a song on her guitar, "Take on Me" from a-ha. It's a beautiful moment. I had to watch it on YouTube because I missed it because I either went into the synagogue or the courthouse too soon. Instead of checking off everything, because they do actually a really good job, which I didn't realize on my first playthrough, of one building always leads to the next building in terms of, or for the most part, you'll find something in one building.
Where you exit, and then, but this is also like, and again, this is where some of these games struggle a little bit with this. Like, this is the first time that we were ever been introduced to the breaking the window mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times I had to reprogram myself to start to break glass, and then in this game you break a lot of glass, like display cases, windows, using them as mechanics to move you around. Like, and it just at this part it wasn't introduced right away.
I think I went halfway through the game before realizing you can break vending machines open. And get health. I was so pissed halfway through the game when I realized that.
Well, I was also worried that it was going to use a melee hit on one of the tools you picked up.
Yeah.
And then come to find out is that Ellie has her little pocket knife that she just breaks the window with it every time.
Mm-hmm.
So But that was again more of the scavenging part, going through the doors, and then little things that happen, like and the game purposely does this to you. Like in the music shop, if I remember correctly, I think when you go up the steps, you run into a runner or a clicker, and if you engage with that runner or clicker and you kill them, you're just taught to kind of like move forward from that aspect. Okay, that's done, and you move forward. And then there's whether there's a workbench there, or there was another couple other collectibles there, or there was the window of where you left. If you didn't turn around and look behind you and go down the hallway, you wouldn't have gotten to that area that I got to. And that's where my first dig on the game was of my first con on this game. Like I get 100% what they're trying to do. If they want to encourage multiple playthroughs, like that's fine. But when you're trying to tell a story that is so determined, and as we talk about later, is like so determined on relationship building and character building, certain things like that I feel like should be pushed in that direction. They could have put that between two rooms in there. Like they could have put that scene and designed it and put that, that little room as like almost as like a hallway section of where you have to go from point A to point C, and to do it you got to go through point B, and point B is that scene.
Yeah, like I don't mind missing like notes and little world building stuff, but the idea that I missed an entire cutscene with
Right.
Dina and Ellie, a very beautiful moment. I don't know how you felt about that moment, but it was a very nice moment in the game, or at least I thought so. That
Yeah.
the idea that I missed that on my playthrough and I watched it on YouTube, like where the fuck was that? And then on my
Yep.
second playthrough, got to enjoy it. It was just like I would have that moment. If I saw it in game, might have brought some tears to my eye,
But it
sort
also,
of situation.
it makes me wonder, like, what else did I miss that I didn't realize?
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing in my second playthrough. Like, I'm doing a second playthrough, and I have a guide up just to make sure I'm not missing out on anything. So far, that is like, I just got to the Abby section of the game on my second playthrough, and I haven't missed any full cutscenes like I did in the music store. So, but I don't know what's going to happen in my second playthrough with Abby in terms of, like, does she have any scenes that are, like, going to be missed and I'm going to be pissed about?
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
I mean-
that is definitely a dig. It's too big for its own good. I think that's a theme with this game in terms of how long it lasts and how big the world is. Naughty Dog are masters at world building and making things pretty. And I almost feel like this was a game that they just kind of went all out. And I don't know if that was truly what this game needed
Yeah.
for
So-
certain aspects.
In this part of downtown Seattle, you find a couple of additional weapons. The whole goal of this is that you're looking for additional gas to power a generator, to open up another gate, to access another part of Seattle. So
To get to a hotel that
Yep.
you learn that they might, the WLF or the Wolves might be stationed at. At least that's what you hear. I forget exactly how you
it's
learn
it's
that
written
they
on
might
it's
be.
written on a note as like a base or something like that. As like it's, and then you, as soon as you walk into the first quarantine zone, you see the hotel over the wall, but you can't get to it.
Yeah. Okay.
So then you get through the gate, and you're exploring through the hotel. You gotta, you get into the hotel area. You're moving your way through the hotel. You're picking up materials, you're scavenging stuff. All that's implied, obviously. And you're moving your way upstairs, and then you get to an area where you're starting to see evidence of what appears to be Tommy in front of you. Like in terms of like the areas that you're covering, it seems that Tommy has been here. And then one of the things is that there are two members of the WLF that are tied up on chairs. And obviously an interrogation happens here. And then this is, again, where Ellie's explaining the stuff that she's been taught of how you interrogate people, is that you have one write it down. And then in this case, they made it write it down in blood. And then you ask the other one. And if the answers don't match, then, you kill them. And that appears to be what happened. But they get they get the code for the next gate. During they get the guy to write the code down in blood, and so they remember that number, and then they open up the next gate.
Yeah. I have to say, I loved the swerve this game was building up to. The entire time you're traveling through Seattle, you find dead WLF people or wolves. We'll just call them wolves for now instead of saying WLF.
Yeah.
But
And you start hearing about the rebellion, essentially.
yeah, but specifically, at least for when I played, especially after the hotel, anytime I came across wolves that were dead, Dina and Ellie would be like, is this Tommy? And for a while, I'm like, holy shit, Tommy is going ballistic. Later, we find out that isn't all Tommy.
Right.
But I love the build-up to where you just think Tommy is just going fucking intense, like on a man on a mission. He is a man on a mission, but like
Yeah.
you think he's just wrecking havoc, and we later find out that might not be the case.
Yeah, I thought that I felt like at this point in time they were building kind of like three factions. Like you obviously had the wolves, you had the people that didn't want to be wolves, and then you had the people that were that it looked like on the surface were doing some massive killing to some people.
Yeah. It looks like Seattle was just a complete war zone, or it still is a war zone. And the notes do such a good job at building that stuff out. And also, I will say that the game is really good at making multiple notes build into a story. Like, I'll talk about some of my favorite stories from the notes that had multiple notes that as you progress through a section, you would find more and more information and flesh out what happened in the world. But man, some of that stuff is really good. And that was present in the first game as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we open up the closed gate. The fuck Fedra gate, I believe, is the gate that we're trying to open that we need gas for, because the reason it's called that is it's just written on graffiti. And then you get into an area where you can just explore. You don't get to explore too long, though. I hated this part. Oh god, anytime one of the, like when Joel died, that broke me. Anytime you ran across a dog and I had to kill it, that killed me. You and Dina are on horseback. You're on Shimmer, who I believe is Joel's horse. You hop a fence, but it's booby trapped, and the horse blows up. You and Dina get thrown off. Dina somehow is able to escape.
Yeah, she
but
like
Ellie
falls,
is captured.
she rolls off the side like into like a basement area of something.
Yeah.
So, and then Dina's captured, and it shows, or not Dina's captured. I'm sorry,
Ellie.
Ellie's captured, and then it cuts to her being tied up, and she's actually encountering somebody that she saw in Jackson, and he's surprised to see her, and he said like that we should have killed her on sight, and they're getting ready to kill her, and then obviously like Dina drops down and and saves them, and then they're in the process of escaping from this area. This I guess in the walkthrough we're looking at, it was called like an elementary school, Eastbrook Elementary.
Yeah, it was a very, very fancy school.
Yeah. So this is your first encounter. This is the first time you're in the game. Now you're fighting against other humans. And as you're progressing through this, you're trying to
you get the cover mechanics, and the prone mechanics are like really shown off in this section as well.
You're starting to collect some intel that you need to kind of go to the television station, because the television station seems to be a point of interest for them as you're progressing through.
Yeah, you find out Leah, who is one of the people there that killed Joel. You find out that she is doing a 2-week, which I guess is just like a 2-week outpost at the TV station, which of course is very far away. Yeah. So you kind of escape through the school, which is a really I played it stealth and I played it action. Either way you play it, it's really fun. Like the gun. I
did not get through any encounter in this game without killing something.
Oh, dude, I had multiple sections in my first and second playthrough where I didn't kill anybody, which was really nice. They do a great job in this game, which I wish I used more, where sometimes as Ellie or Abby, your best bet is to run away. Mm-hmm. Not fight, not stealth your way through it, is to just book it. And I thought that was really cool. The game also kind of breaks that, though, because you'll oftentimes get through an area and then you'll see Ellie and Dina cutscene, close, and lock up a door. And I always found that funny, especially in areas where I run and gunned and killed everyone. But I noticed those are the scenes that I was probably supposed to just run away from, and that's why they're like rushing to like lock things up. But I just thought that was like a cool mechanic of just like sometimes you just have to run. I'm sure on the hardest difficulty you legit are just supposed to book it in some scenarios.
I mean, my problem with trying to do as much as that I could stealth is that I was afraid that I'd miss a trading card or I would miss some resources, and the easiest way for me to do it was to kill everything in the room and then scour the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're introduced to some of the traps, trying to get up to the TV station where you're throwing a lot of bricks, trying to trigger the traps. The blast radius on those things is very large.
Yeah.
I died a couple times doing that. And then you get into the TV station where you start to see people being hung.
Yeah, when you first get to, because you start on like it's kind of like the first floor. It's like an elevated, like sort of building. So like I think it's like the first floor. You see someone shot up, but they're shot up with arrows, and Dina and Ellie are like, "Was this Tommy?" And then they believe it's Tommy until they get into the main room of the TV station, and they see people just hanging with their intestines out. And that's when you realize of the third faction, or the second faction that you deal with, the Scars, the Sephirotes?
Seraphites.
They're actually called Seraphites. You see that there is a like crazy cult that have sprung up, which are fighting the wolves. Mm-hmm. So the wolves are getting hit on two fronts, which is kind of amazing because as I thought about it, the wolves and the Scars have been fighting for a long time apparently, and it's been building up to them just having a final encounter. And something happens over the course of a couple days that Ellie and Tommy are in town that pushes things over the edge. And it leads to like a big battle, but I realize that Ellie and Tommy might have been the ones that caused this war because they do a shit ton of damage to the wolves. Mm-hmm. And things escalate, and we find out that like the Scars are fucking brutal and kind of crazy, or mostly crazy.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, there's a lot of side stuff you find out about the Scars, which is just I don't know, Dave, if you found the notes, but it sounds like the leader. So we start seeing graffiti throughout this section of the game of "She will feed you," and a woman has kind of come up as like almost a religious figure to the Scars and to like refugees. And the backstory with her, I believe, is she was a woman that had a bunker with a lot of food. And she started to let people in her bunker and feed them. And then that eventually led to people just kind of treating her as like a religious figure. Mm-hmm. And there was a truce between the religious people or the cult people, because they eventually turned into a cult, and the wolves, that gets broken because the wolves capture this like religious figure, and something happens that leads to her death. And then that's when they go from like
there's almost there's like a civil war going on in Seattle between these two factions.
Yeah, because it sounds like they were just like almost like a non-violent group until their leader was killed, and then all hell breaks loose, and then that religious group turns into a crazy cult. And it gets really intense, and the more notes you read, the more fucked up it is, and the crazier it gets. It's I don't know. I loved reading all the notes about this, kind of piecing together how they got put together and what started to lead to their war, and knowing that Ellie and Tommy are escalating things as well.
Yeah. So this whole time you're trying to hunt some of the people that Ellie's looking for the wolves, and she gets to one area and she finds out that somebody's somewhere else, and she gets to another area and finds out somebody's somewhere else. Eventually they find a theater, and this theater becomes their home base. And there's a cutscene going back and forth between Ellie and Dina there, where Dina tells Ellie that she's pregnant.
Yeah, we on the way from the TV station to the theater, there's a whole running from the wolves, running into infected, playing the wolves against the infected. It's really intense. I died a fair amount of times in the subway station before leading there, but during that you notice that Dina is getting very tired and is starting to get sick and throwing up, and that's when they're at the theater we find out.
And actually it's also where Ellie's mask breaks in the subway.
Yes, that is a key moment in the game, because Dina is going to rip her mask off to share her mask with Ellie, which I don't understand how that would have worked. But they were panicked. So, but luckily Ellie tells her like, no, I'm immune. I'm not coughing. And then Dina finally believes Ellie is immune because she sees Ellie
breathing
not
in the spores
coughing.
and not having a problem. So.
Yeah.
And then again, like they're at the theater, they feel like they're relatively safe. Ellie finds a radio at this theater and she's able to start listening to some of the chatter. Dina stays back and listens to a lot of the chatter and uses that to gather information for them to move around in Seattle. So then we're met with day 2. Go ahead.
Yeah. I do find it funny. This is like a kind of a leap of logic that Leah had a duffel bag in the TV station that happened to have pictures of every single person Ellie's trying to find with their names, and that's how like Dina is able to like figure out where and who she needs to find. And it looks like all those photos were taken during that trip to Jackson, which is just more fucked up. That it was like a little vacation for them. Which just pisses off Ellie more. But I thought that was like one of the only like leaps of logic this game took, but I was fine just accepting that because it just, how else would they have found everyone in a timely manner? Because the game only takes place over the course of 4 days.
Yeah, so as Dina's resting, then Ellie, this is the first time we're introduced to a flashback scene. Ellie is given a flashback to a birthday gift from Joel. I believe
this is so great.
2 or 3 years prior.
Yes.
That he finds out when they're out and about on a longer patrol. It seems like that he finds a dinosaur, museum. And this is again like the balance of back and forth between between this dynamic of the game is that Naughty Dog is really good at intense moments and calm moments and high end moments and funny moments, like the ebb and flow of the game. I still found myself crouching a little bit and looking for things when we were in a non-combatant area.
Yeah, that kind of broke me a little bit because I'm just like, I don't want to miss anything. But for the most part, they keep like the collectibles pretty small in the flashbacks, but they're still there, which kind of sucks if you're trying to just take it in. But yeah, this might be my favorite Ellie and Joel moment from both games. Yeah,
it's definitely showing the human side of Ellie of being a kid, and trying to understand what the old world was like, and her fascination with dinosaurs and her fascination with space, and then Joel understanding all of that and finding things and saying, hey, this is as like almost as a father figure would, like, this is a really cool thing to check out, and like he got a tape cassette of like one of the Apollo space missions taking off and why she was in an escape pod, and he got to kind of be like the happy dad moment during this, and we saw the human side of everybody in this, and it was definitely a really cool moment, like especially me having a daughter and just the personally having a daughter in real life and the thrill of being able to find something that any kid is truly satisfied and having that grin on their face, and I feel like Naughty Dog nailed telling this aspect of it.
Yeah, this was such a great character building moment just to see like the pure joy Joel got from Ellie's joy and happiness, like that space thing. It reminded me of the Edith Finch video game, of just how fantasy it kind of came across as when like Ellie's like fantasizing about just taking the rocket up to space. It's such a good scene, and there's like little callbacks to the Left Behind DLC. There's just so much here, and there seems like everything in the astronomy part of the museum has something to interact with, and Ellie has like a comment for or something to say and show about this, and such a good scene. But then they get separated because Ellie wants to see the Natural History Center attached to the museum. So it gets really dark very fast because Ellie gets separated from Joel, and while she's in a natural history museum, she sees just graffiti on the wall and someone who I believe killed himself, who's a former Firefly, just frustrated that everything fell apart. Then this leads more to Ellie and Joel's like disconnection, the rift in their relationship, because she questions Joel of just like what happened at the hospital, and Joel's kind of not having it, and doesn't want to tell her anything about it. So it goes from a really happy moment to darkness, and then we're back in the theater to head on to Hillcrest, which is probably the most difficult part I've had in the game. The suburbs was really tough.
Yeah, getting through like all the different parts of town, scavenging through the shops, dealing with the wolves, and then
the dogs.
Like the first time you're really introduced to dogs, and then also once you clear the wolves out, you enter another area, and you seem to have more clickers infected. And again, like the story, like the little puzzle mechanics, like none of that stuff really bothers me. Open this door, push like let the dumpsters roll down the hill to roll outside as you open the gate. That stuff was all fine. The dogs were a pain in the ass in terms of their ability to pick up your scent. The flanking in the game was just phenomenal as well. Like there were so many times that I got something, even when I was trying to use listen mode as much as I could, somehow somebody always still got behind me fast.
Yeah, they're really good, and the humans, the AI is really good at being adaptive to what's happening, and them responding to like NPCs dying was a nice touch. All the NPCs seem to have names. I didn't really have any names repeat, but they would react and get angry when they would find like their friend dead, which just adds to like the atmosphere of the game. I really liked this section. It was very difficult in terms of dealing with the dogs, and I hated killing the dogs. This does have my favorite side story, maybe in the entire game. Did you pick up a fair amount of notes in here? They weren't that hard to miss.
Yeah,
but...
Are you talking about where like he pretty much tricked people into going to the auto shop and locked them all in there?
Yes. So there's a guy, Boris.
Which then caused the problem when we opened the door to the auto shop and there was like 7 infected in there.
Yeah. Oh man. So you find a note from someone named Boris and some of his neighbors. It sounds like Hillcrest was actually doing pretty well holding off the infected, but eventually they started to run out of supplies and they reached out to the wolves. The wolves kind of took over the neighborhood, and then they killed a little girl because she tagged on the building. Maybe not a little girl, maybe like a teenager. They killed a girl because she tagged "fuck the wolves" on the wall. And Isaac, who's the leader of the wolves, does not take any of that lightly. So he ordered for the wolves to kill the girl. And Boris then wants to get revenge, but the neighbors don't want to like lose the protection of the wolves. So they decide to turn him in. He finds out about this and tricks them into going into a garage that has spores and locks them in there. And you find the notes, you find it out, and you also, depending on, I think you need to open the garage door, but you open the garage door and you find them, and then when you later find the note, finding out that they were in there possibly for years, and they had slow, painful deaths and turned into clickers. It's just brutal, just reading that, but I thought it was like the best, like, complete story in the game for the side stuff. But I love that. But yeah, so just to move forward a little bit with it, Hillcrest, Ellie kind of gets overrun with wolves and kind of overwhelmed. I think there's no way to make it completely clean out of that area. Eventually it just becomes too much and Ellie has to run away, and she ends up almost, you think it's going to be like too much for Ellie, but then Jesse comes in and kind of saves the day, and he traveled to find Dina and Ellie, and they make their escape. Jesse is the worst driver in the history of driving in games. So you have this kind of epic like standoff and driving scene with Jesse and Ellie on their way back to the theater. But yeah, and then you Jesse and Ellie are back in the theater, and then we get one more flashback of Tommy and Ellie introducing the sniper mechanic of the game, but it also leads to Ellie and Joel trying to find new guitar strings. And you get your first encounter with a bloater, I believe, in this scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just more character building with Joel and Ellie. I'm trying
More
to think.
talking about the immune, like it was a heavy focus on the immune phase, like her immunity to stuff,
Yeah,
where he wanted her to make
yeah,
sure that she always still wore the mask and didn't slip up, and kind of more him still parenting her and her like saying, I understand and I know how this stuff works and I haven't been caught yet, and her kind of being like a little bit of more of a defiant teenager.
yes, yeah. And then this comes back to the theater. Jesse's knocked out, but Ellie decides to go out again. I forget where exactly she's trying to head out to.
I mean, she's got
Or who
intel.
she's got to go to Nora.
Yeah, from the radio, they're finding, like Dina's been doing a little bit of process elimination, listening to radio chatter. They think that, like that's why they went to Hillcrest, because they thought they were hearing that Tommy was there. So she was trying to chase Tommy, and that's when she ran into Jesse, and then more of the intels led them to believe that Nora is at the hospital.
Yes. So we get like a pretty lengthy section on the way to the hospital. I think for the most part, you're just dealing with clickers. You're going through some neighborhoods, you're going through office buildings, sewers, and then you have to cut through a little park. This is your first time dealing with the scars. And this was scary for me, the first time you deal with them, because there's a fair amount of them. And the whistling that they do, they don't talk to each other verbally when they're like on the hunt or whatever. They only do whistles, and it's very creepy hearing all the whistles go
quiet.
around. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they dress all in like brown, so they blend in with the environment. They use bow and arrows for the most part, so they don't make noise. It's a really intense section of the game, and probably the first time in a game that I actually felt like it was a horror game, and I'm not dealing with clickers, I'm dealing with humans. But we do get like a long section where you're dealing with them, and then you head to the hospital, where the wolves are basically clearing out the hospital because they need as many supplies as they get, because it sounds like they're going out into a full-on war. And you run into Nora, and you chase her through the hospital until you end up on the basement floor of the hospital, which is filled with spores and clickers. And you basically, at this point,
are torturing her like for information. So.
Yeah, this is like one of the darker scenes for Ellie, or not the darkest at least, but one of the first dark moments, where Nora's coughing up and gonna die, and Ellie has to kind of torture her to find out where Abby is. And we find out Abby is at the aquarium. So that's that scene. I love this section of the game. I stealthed it my first time, killing as little people as possible. It's not... I don't know if it's possible to go without killing anybody, but I made it through like that whole garden area in the front without sniping or without having to stealth kill anybody. But yeah, this was a great section. I did lose Nora a couple times on the chasing her a couple times, but for the most part, I really liked this section. Any takeaways from you?
Just the way that the game flowed in terms of the combat that you could have with the scars, the verticality of that area. And then, getting into the hospital, climbing through the vents, listening to the conversations, seeing some more characters again, and then just talking to her, and then her taking off and just chasing her, like just the fluidity of how that ran, of her moving and you moving and catching up to her, and then essentially telling her like, hey, like you can die slowly, or you can die, and turn into the infected, or I can just kill you now if you give me what I want to know.
Yeah. So. This gets followed up with a flashback after some cutscenes where Ellie is exploring the hospital that she was in the first game, that Joel killed everybody. And this is when we finally get like the as close to a full picture as we can of what happened with Ellie and Joel how they were at the beginning of the game. Why they were not getting along, why they were distant. And it's because Ellie explores the hospital. You find some notes that the doctors are really, really excited for the prospects of like finding a cure and everything. But Ellie finds a tape recorder that basically says like, we had the possibility of a cure. Joel killed everybody, and now the people that could cure this are dead. And the Fireflies are disbanded, and the recording, I believe, is someone saying, or there's a note of someone saying like he's not going to give up. He's going to look for more immune people and try and cure this. But for the most part, it sounds like all hope was lost, and this absolutely breaks Ellie because she talks to Joel because Joel ends up meeting her at the hospital because, you know, she ran away and ran super far away. Utah and Wyoming distance is, you know, is pretty great. So she confronts him and Joel tells her the truth. Like, they had to kill you for the vaccine, and Ellie's just heartbroken and pissed because Joel basically made the decision for her. She had no choice in the matter, you know, and she was basically told, you lived and others will die and suffer, and the current world we're in is going to stay the same because you didn't die at the hospital, which is a lot for like a teen to have to deal with, or anybody have to deal with that fact that their life, the fact that they lived, meant suffering for humanity. And that is their relationship breaking point at the time. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean,
on
it's
that?
just kind of one of those things where, you, like, if again playing the first game, you had to think for the second one that was a huge focal point of the first game. That was the way the game left on a cliffhanger. Like, you knew it was going to be a point of contention in the next game, somehow. So it just the going back and forth was always really cool, but it also kind of, for me, kind of was breaking the flow a little bit. But you know, as you progress through to day 3, where she's trying to go to the aquarium, as you're making your way to the aquarium, and you're doing a little bit of stuff with the boat mechanic, you're outside a little bit more. Just the decimation of the city is just so fascinating in terms of, it's been, you know, like if it got bombed and it's flooded, moving the boats around, running into some more seraphites, you know, on some more verticality things of fighting through them. You know, still scavenging and looking for a lot of stuff, and then, you know, your boat getting toppled over, and then you swimming to the aquarium, like in what pretty much felt like you were just swimming in the ocean at this point in time.
Yeah, you pretty much are.
Yeah.
So at this point, Ellie has agreed with Jesse that she is going to just get Tommy and then go home. And she tells Dina that, she tells Jesse that. And right when they find out where Tommy is, he's on the marina, Ellie tells Jesse, I'm going to go to Abby because Tommy's trying to go to Abby, so I'll just meet him at Abby, which just tells you that Ellie never meant to just go get Tommy. She wants to kill Abby. She's going to kill Abby. And Jesse basically is just like, screw that. I'm going to go get Tommy. You do whatever you want. You lied to us. And Jesse's kind of pissed at Ellie at this point. And that's what leads to Ellie getting on the boat and getting shipwrecked, basically, and heading to the aquarium. And in the aquarium, it's at this point, like, I know I didn't have much ammo. You're not really meant to have too much ammo for that because there's no firefight or anything really that you have to deal with. You kill a dog in the thing, and you run into Mel and Owen. Mel is one of the other women that was there, and then Owen was the one who basically saved Ellie at the beginning of the game, because he was the one that's like, no, we didn't come for them, we came for Joel. Ellie is like, I only want Abby. You guys can live. Owen doesn't believe her. Mel doesn't believe her. And shit goes down. Owen gets shot. Mel gets stabbed in the neck. We find out that Mel is pregnant, which just kind of breaks Ellie. She goes kind of into shock.
Ellie found out that Mel was pregnant, but we knew Mel was
pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Ellie finds out Mel's pregnant. It's completely shocking to Ellie because she can't believe she did that to someone who's pregnant, and her girlfriend's pregnant, so I'm sure that plays a little bit into that. Luckily, Tommy and Jesse do show up and they get her out of there because I don't think she would have been able to get out of there on her own with her current state. And then we end up back at the museum, and at this point, we're everything's kind of okay.
Yeah, Tommy's there, Jesse's there, Dina's there, Ellie's there. They're pretty much talking about they're gonna go home, like that.
Yeah,
that
they're done.
This is more than they really want to handle, and it's worse than they thought, and everybody's intact. Dina, she wants what's best for Dina. She wants to be with Dina, and Jesse and Tommy want to go home. So they're gonna it sounds like in the morning they're getting ready to go home.
Yeah, so they're getting ready to go home. Dina's like sleeping in the back, and then Ellie hears like a confrontation. Her and Jesse run to go see what's going on, and Abby's standing over Tommy. No. Abby shoots Jesse in the face. Jesse is now dead. Tommy is on the ground, and Ellie has to give up her gun to try and save Tommy. And Ellie's just begging that she lets Tommy live. And without saying Dina's in the back, Dina lives. And then it looks like Abby's getting ready to shoot. And then we get a flashback to Abby as a child. And this is another cool scene. It adds a lot of background to Abby. So Abby as a kid, Abby and Ellie are probably around the same age, I believe. Abby might be just a little older, potentially. But we get a flashback, and it's Abby and her dad looking for an animal, it's a zebra that's like caught in some barbed wire, which at first was like, oh, that's a little weird, until you realize that Abby and her dad are fireflies that work at the hospital that Ellie and Joel are going to. Mm-hmm. The zebra is from the same zoo that the giraffe from the first game was from. So that's why there's just a zebra out in the middle of Salt Lake City, which I thought was really cool. And it basically shows you that Abby's dad is like a good dude, but we've learned more about Abby and her dad, find out that Abby's dad is one of the doctors that Joel killed to save Ellie. And then this obviously provides the background of why Abby was so hell-bent on killing Joel. Really great. I loved this scene. The flashbacks in this game were so well done, from Ellie's to Abby's. And then this is where the game takes its controversial turn. You now play the next 10 hours, or 5 to 10 hours as Abby. You play as the person that killed Joel, which I think was really great, because it seems like the theme with this game is revenge is bad, which is the very simple boilerplate way of talking about this game, and how violence begets more violence. And they wanted to show you that there's no good people in this game. Everyone does what they do for a reason. Joel killed Abby's dad to save Ellie, and Abby wants to kill Joel because Joel killed her dad.
And now Ellie wants to kill Abby because Abby killed Joel.
Yes, so it's a vicious cycle, and it's waiting for someone to break it. So we get to see Abby as a young kid, and then we get a flashback to day one. So the clock gets basically reset. We get day one Seattle, but from Abby's perspective.
Yeah, and this is like the first time where you start seeing stuff of you're playing through the same time frame that you just played through, and you can kind of hear communication about what Ellie and her team are doing, and Ellie and Tommy are doing, and you can also, I feel like, hear the sounds in the game as they're happening as well too.
Oh, you do. It's so good.
So the way that the story that they're telling at first, it took me a little bit to realize exactly what was happening as we were doing this, but you essentially were playing through two characters at the exact same time, like parallel with each other, of one being on one side and one being on the other side, and the focal point is going to be at the end of the third day when they both run into each other.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that this Abby during this time has obviously been portrayed as a villain. She killed Joel, and now the game is going to have you play as what has been portrayed as the villain, and you're going to be playing, like you said, you're playing for a long time.
Yeah.
And like you had mentioned earlier with the combat and stuff like that, it's a very different style for Abby than it is for Ellie. And, people can say what they want to say. I feel like sometimes Abby's build is one of the most controversial topics on the internet lately. But
yeah, oh no, go on.
You see it a little bit as they're showing, the like in the stadium, which by the way is like the Seattle Seahawks stadium to the T with different names on it. Like one of the first things that they establish when she leaves out of her room or the area that she was sleeping is that like this is essentially an army facility.
Yes.
And the reason why she is like she is that she is trained to, like, whenever she met up with the wolves or however she got attached to the wolves, they've been training her to be a soldier, and she's an elite soldier for them now.
She's one of the best. Yes.
Yeah, and so that's why she's built like that. She's already a tall woman as it is, but she's driven by revenge. She, we find out that her dad was the head doctor that Joel killed, and her goal for the last couple of years has been to find Joel and to kill him, and that's what's been driving her, and that's why she is as strong-willed and physically strong as she is, because her motivation has been, I'm going to become the best soldier I can be, with her whole end game is to kill Joel.
Yeah. And so, like, I think a lot of controversy with Abby comes down to the leaks, is because the leaks just mentioned there's a trans character and people are uncomfortable with that. And they see Abby, who is just super built, and some people just can't understand that someone could be that built if they're a woman, and that there's just a lot of dumb people online that are just upset about that idea that they're playing as a really strong female character. But like you said, she has had one goal in mind, and that is to kill Joel. And as far as she knows, Joel is a fucking badass who from Boston to Salt Lake City killed hundreds of people, killed a military organization.
And
as far as she knows, and her dad. As far as she knows, Joel is the biggest badass that she'll ever face in her life. So she joins a military group, and she reshapes her body to be a killing machine because she wants to get their revenge, and because probably in her head, which is why in the beginning of the game, she's just kind of surprised at like how Joel treats her in terms of him being very kind, in terms of like saving her, and the fact that he lives in a city. She probably expected Joel to be like this intimidating badass, which he no longer is, because she just has it in her mind that like, this is a horrible person I need to kill. Look at all the carnage he has caused. And it helps that she happens to be in the Seattle Seahawks stadium and has the best like workout equipment you could have for
the Wolves faction looks like, obviously it's been years and stuff, and like, and again, like we saw Jackson and we saw how established Jackson was, and like we mentioned, it seemed like Owen and Abby were surprised by how established it was, but to see where they lived, it was kind of like at the same time like, wow, because like they had a fully functioning city in this stadium.
Yes. But they were scrapping for everything that they can to have as normal of a life as they can. So seeing Jackson being way more peaceful is bothersome to them, or they can't understand that. Mm-hmm. I equate like Abby's transformation to, have you seen the Terminator movies? Mm-hmm. Like the first two? So Linda Hamilton in the first one, Sarah Connor, is kind of defenseless, and she's a victim in the first one, and then in the second Terminator movie, she transforms herself because of what happened in the first movie. She transforms her body and kind of turns into this badass soldier, and I equate that to Abby's story arc in terms of, in the first game, she's not in the first game, but we'll just say in the first game, in the events of the first game, she's basically helpless and a victim. Like, she's standing outside of the hospital while all this shit's going on and can't help or save her father. So then she transforms herself into something that can, like, avenge her father. And I think that's, like, a really cool story to tell. It just sucks that the leaks that happened were all out of context, so people pieced together the narrative for themselves off those leaks.
They had predetermined thoughts before they played the game.
Yes, and they are running with them, and anytime you mention this game online, which is probably part of the reason why I didn't want to like do this live on Twitch, is because I don't want to get a troll in the chat, is people have made the narrative of what they think the game is based off the leaks, and it's just became its own thing. There's like two different games that are out right now, the actual game and then the narrative that people have made based on the leaks, and it all revolves around Abby, but besides the point, we play as Abby. I don't know about you, Dave, but I was pissed with how good Abby's equipment is compared to Ellie's.
I love that crossbow, man.
The crossbow, the machine gun, all of Abby's stuff. Abby even holds the gun like a soldier, which you don't notice, but like her shot is steadier. Her hand placement on the gun is better. It's crazy the level of detail.
I feel like it takes less melee combats with runners and clickers with her because obviously she's substantially stronger.
Oh yeah, she just puts them in a headlock and just snaps their neck.
I mean, I don't want to sit here and beat the story to death, but I mean, they kind of went through the same thing. Like they were telling the story arc of why Abby is how she is and what her motivation is, her relationship with Owen, which Owen was one of the first people to run into her father at the Firefly Hospital after he was killed by Joel. Somehow he survived that entire that complex, and so he was very very attached to Abby. They were already attached prior to her father's death anyways. And they were establishing the aquarium and establishing Owen's relationship issues. He's in a relationship with Mel, but he obviously still has feelings for Abby. So there's kind of like that triangle going on there.
Yeah. That dynamic is really good. Owen is kind of a tragic character in this game because it sounds like he didn't actually want it. Like, he was a Firefly, but he didn't want to join the Wolves. He joined because Abby joined. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to be there for Abby, but he couldn't deal with Abby's, like, one-track mind of revenge. Like, he couldn't get down with that. He will help her because he cares for her, but he doesn't want to do this. Like, we learned that he tried to get... Owen tried to get her to like skip training camp for the Wolves and run away with him on a boat he was fixing up, but she wanted to do this task, which is what led to him getting with Mel.
Yeah, I mean the two parallels between Abby and Ellie were written very well. Where on Ellie's side, she kind of has a love triangle with Ellie and Jesse and Dina, and then on Abby's side, there's a love triangle with Abby, Mel, and Owen. There's the revenge aspect, and the three characters on each side all offsetting each thing. Tommy's kind of wrinkled in there, is a little bit similar to Isaac, who's the leader of the Wolves. So like the parallels between the two is very well written, and it's something that takes some more time as you're thinking about it. They're establishing the aquarium as essentially like the home base, as something that Owen has built up over time. And then Abby's relationship with Manny, who's like kind of her partner, her combat partner. Yeah. And then you're kind of going through the same thing again. You're progressing from point A to point B. You're trying to find Owen, and then you're trying to move through the story, and you're met with a terrible run-in with the Seraphites.
Yeah, you run in with them. You get a little bit of background on the Wolves. You meet Isaac, who's the leader of the Wolves, and he seems brutal. You see where they're holding Seraphites and torturing them, and you just start to run into the Seraphites. Like, that's your main combatant on Abby's side, more so than the clickers. It's the Seraphites. You're constantly running into them. But yeah, I feel like all of Abby Day One is just you dealing with the Seraphites. For the most part, you're with Manny a little bit, but you're on your way to the aquarium because you know that's where Owen will be, because they establish in the flashback that like you have history at the aquarium. But you basically work your way to the you're working your way to the aquarium, and then you get the flashback and see why the aquarium is their home base. And that's where Owen is basically trying to tell her to like run away with me and let's forget all this, revenge isn't worth it, etc., etc. Really cool scene. It's basically the museum scene but at an aquarium. Which I thought was a little redundant, but it's still done well enough that I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's two very parallel stories that they're telling. Of
almost too much.
Yeah.
Like,
so and I'm not demeaning like Abby's story, but at the same time it runs concurrent with Ellie, and it's very similar to Ellie's story. But what they were able to do is establish to slowly peel away at the villain title of Abby. It took time, but they were slowly peeling away at it of like she's not, like similar to where you understand that Joel in the first game, is a bad person, and you're slowly peeling away the mercenary aspect of Joel and seeing him as a father-like figure. And now we're seeing Abby as a human-like figure of, where she's learning and she's having different perspectives given to her, and she's understanding things differently. And then she has a brutal run-in with the Seraphites.
Yes. Also, this is also where you meet Alice, the dog. They give all of Abby's friends that you've been killing names. They give all the dogs names. It's crazy. But
background, relationship, why they're, like what they're doing, and
it just makes you question everything you did as Ellie.
Right, which is crazy because like you're seeing the conversations with Owen and you're seeing the encounters with Mel as they're establishing all this stuff, and and that these people are dead. Like,
yes.
So it's crazy. Like you see that all the you know exactly when it says Seattle Day One again, and you start playing as Abby, you realize like, okay, I'm gonna go through these 3 days again, just as a different character.
Yeah. Yep. And you don't know how far behind or how close you are to all the events that you just did. It's really well done. I really enjoyed watching that unfold. But yeah, we get the brutal Seraphites section. So Abby somehow, I forget exactly what leads to the circumstances, but she basically gets kidnapped by the Seraphites, the Scars, and we just see how brutal they are. There's two kids who later we find out are Yara and Lev. Yara's the girl, and then Lev is the boy. We see them just get, Yara just gets her wings clipped, which is just her hand gets hit with a hammer.
Her arm.
Her arm, her whole arm just gets hit with the hammer. Yeah.
And they're getting ready to hit her other arm, and Lev, shoots an arrow, and Abby helps to essentially save her life, and it's more of a survival for Abby as she's being hung, and
and it's pop-up scare city from this point on in this section because it's super dark.
Yeah, you're trying to escape the forest, and you're running from the infected. You have a couple of encounters with some more SARS, and you're starting to establish again the peeling away of the villain layer of her helping these kids. She's also helping herself survive, but then she finally, getting through all this stuff and trying to find out like about who they are, why they're running, and that they're just kids. And Lev is the transgender character that people got wrong. So like trying to figure out like there's this layer there of like there's things that they're hinting at, but they're not talking about exactly what's going on. And he's essentially going against the religious aspects of the Seraphites based on what he's doing. He's not following the teachings, and that's why they're running, and the Seraphites are trying to kill the two of them.
Yeah. So we find out that Lev, which it's kind of amazing. I know it's controversial because they say what Lev's former name was, or his dead name was, but when you're playing as Ellie, you hear the Seraphites talking about, did you hear what Lily did? And you'll hear them constantly say the name Lily and talk about like, oh, they can't believe what Lily did. But we find out what happened was Lev always identified as a boy as far as Yara can remember. And when you hit a certain age in the Seraphites, you either become a soldier or if you're a woman, you get married off. And Lev was going to be married off to someone, to an elder. And when Lev found out about that, Lev shaved his head, which immediately broke the rules that they have about like that. Because all the men shave their heads in the Seraphites. Yeah. So Lev shaved her head, broke that rule, and then Yara had kind of no choice but to run away with Lev because they were going to be killed because of that. And Lev's and Yara's mom is an extremist as well and would have let them die, basically.
Yeah.
So we get like this tragic story about Lev and Yara, which is the controversial thing that I've been hearing as well, is just that they're telling a trans story that is very brutal and violent. But at the same time, there's no other way to tell that story in The Last of Us because the world is so brutal and violent.
Yeah. And I feel like it was an important aspect, but it definitely wasn't the focus of... The focus was the relationship between Abby, Lev, and Yara.
Yeah. It was just why the two kids ran away from home. That's the background for that. But in terms of the overall story, Lev and Yara is basically the first game. It's... Joel doesn't care about Ellie until he grows attached to them. And for the most part, Abby helps the two kids because they helped her. But then once she leaves them at one point and is just like, all right, take care of yourselves. I got to go do some shit at the aquarium. And then she's done with it. But
it lingers in her mind throughout the whole night. So,
and it's almost like it's a little bit of her humanity is saved because she gets attached to Lev and Yara. So she wants to save them because in her eyes they're innocent kids that need help. And she wants to help them. And Abby realizes that she's done some horrible shit. People have been hurt, but she sees them as a way to either make herself better or as just a way to just say she did something positive. Which is like very important to her character, and like you said, peeling the layers off of the villain moniker that we by default give her because we're so attached to Joel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then again, there's a dynamic between her and Owen with the sex scene, and establishing the relationship. So then the next morning she wakes up, and then now we're on Seattle day 2, and she has Lev and Yara immediately on her mind. So she goes back to where she left them, to find out that Yara has a serious infection in her broken arm that she tried to reset. So her first instinct is to bring them back to the aquarium. And they bring them back to the aquarium, and Mel is there, and Mel looks at her and determines that they need to amputate the arm. So in order to amputate the arm, they need certain supplies. Those supplies need to come from the hospital. So, and the concern becomes time. Of where the hospital is and how they're going to get there fast enough. And we find out from Lev that the Seraphites use they use skyscraper style bridges to stay away from the wolves.
This is tough section.
So,
and Abby's afraid of heights.
Yeah, Abby's afraid of heights,
which they established in the beginning.
Yep. So they're, that's the cursor. It was really cool, like graphically, just to see using this time of moving from one point to the other point to establish stories, similar to how they did with horseback riding. They established this story as you're climbing up the skyscraper in Seattle to go on these bridges that'll get you across town very quickly. And, this is, again, where Lev is kind of telling a little bit more of their story of what's going on, and Abby's able to learn a little bit more about the Seraphites and the twisted teachings of since the leader has passed on or was killed, of how and the motives behind what they're doing, and to find out that for the most part they're doing what they're doing because the wolves are making them do it.
Yes. A truce was broken. We don't know exactly how the truce was broken, because I don't know if it's exactly connected to the leader dying, but it sounds like there was a truce at one point and the wolves broke it. But we also find out that the Seraphites were also like luring people to the island. In the aquarium, you find the notes about like the kids that abandoned their dad at the aquarium because like Seraphites are basically saying like, your dad can't provide for you. But we're getting more lights on like the Seraphites during this, which is really well told, and just I don't know, this feels like the most well thought out world I've played in a long time for that. But yeah.
So while you're descending across the bridges, you end up going through this hotel, and man,
Fuck
this hotel. Multiple layers, multiple floors, trying to find gas masks for Lev, dealing with multiple infected that apparently can open doors.
Yeah. Not just run through them, open them.
Yeah, or a door that's locked and then they later come out. Just like a lot of jump scares there. This isn't the first time, but this is the time I remember the most that they were popping out of spore-driven walls.
Yeah, like cocoons and stuff. Yeah. That I from that point on, I would shoot the cocoons because you start to realize you can kind of see.
Yeah,
the
like
ones
almost
that
like
will
the
be
ones that
able
are
to pop
wearing
out.
like wearing jeans or something.
Yeah.
So like the hotel was definitely a challenge. But again, Abby's weapons and like then as you're picking up more materials and you found more training manuals, depending on how you found them, you could make like incendiary bullets for your shotgun. You could have like a really good scope on your crossbow, and if your aim was really good, you really had essentially unlimited arrows for the most part. So if you were strategic and played correctly, you would be okay. I mean, you did this more than I did, but I don't feel like this hotel was anything you could really stealth.
No, because the floors are broken up too much to where you have to jump into more clickers. So yeah, this is one of the only areas I think that you can really stealth. I tried a little bit, but no.
Yeah, so
you kind of have to go for it.
Through this whole encounter,
you can run through it.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Yeah, you were making your way to the hospital because you were looking for supplies that Mel needed to work on Yara. And then when you get to the hospital, Abby tells Lev to stay put, and because the hospital is overran with wolves at the moment, and she's like relying on communication maybe not being that great, and she pretty much kind of just walks up as a wolf to get into the hospital to try to get what she needs.
And says Isaac is sending her there, and then she goes to meet up with Nora. And then she explains to Nora what's going on, like she met someone, she needs to get medical supplies. The medical supplies have all been packed up except the ones in the basement, which is overrun by zombies or clickers.
Which is apparently the first area that when the outbreak started happening, this is where like all of the initial patients went. So this is like ground zero.
Yeah, which, God, we'll talk about what that means for the clickers in a couple minutes. And so the people she told that Isaac sent her, they checked with Isaac. Isaac lets them know that she went AWOL, so they arrest her and lock her in an elevator. Nora lets her out, and it says, just get your medical supplies in the basement and get the fuck out. And Nora covers for her. And this is maybe a couple minutes before Ellie comes in, because you get a scene where when you're playing as Ellie, where you overhear them talk about like someone's yelling at Nora for letting Abby go, and we find out that Nora did let Abby go. Okay, so the hospital sucks because when you're in the basement, I went into multiple rooms. You got a list from Mel on what you need. It's like gauze, tools, all this other stuff. And I went through multiple rooms, and the game's detailed enough that I saw packages that said gauze. I saw packages that said alcohol, all this stuff. And I couldn't pick up any of it because you need to find a tiny ass little box that could not possibly hold everything that you need. and you needed that one box, and you basically spend the entire time looking for that one box, and then you meet the Rat King clickers, I believe they're called.
Yeah, so what was interesting about this is that, again, and I was kind of got in the habit of doing like the perimeter walk every room I went into, where you kind of just walk around the perimeter looking for supplies, and I check the middle of the table after I've cleared the room. And so I was very cautious about going through any closed doors that required you to press triangle. So anywhere that I could find that was a door that was already open first, I'd go through there. When you're in the lower levels of the hospital, you have to like connect power, and you kind of like connect the generator and turn some things on. And then when you go back, all of a sudden, I don't know if you noticed this or not, there was this area like when power was turned back on that this giant thing just went through, and then the ambulance doors were open. The doorways to the parking lot were open, which they were not open prior. So you're kind of going in there, and they're obviously establishing something, and you climb into one of the ambulances, you get the things that you need, and you're trying to get out, and you find this just horrific looking clicker.
Yeah, it's multiple clickers in one. It's one of them break away from the main one, and it's straight up scary.
How many times did you die?
Just once, and that's because I kind of cornered myself, and I thought I can juke, and I couldn't, and I got killed. But I used up all of my ammo, like I used up both pistols, both the arrow, the shotgun. I used every single piece of ammo I had. That after it, I just had to like look around and do another lap to pick up whatever bullets I needed, because I didn't know if I was gonna get refilled anytime soon. It was crazy. This was the most Resident Evil section of this game.
So I mean, that was definitely interesting. And just to find and to fight that patient, to fight the essentially what sounded like was portrayed as the first person to be infected.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. But you get everything you need, and then you and Lev head back to the marina for the amputation. And I believe this leads us to day 3. Mm-hmm. How exactly? So they're looking for a present for Lev, Yara, and Abby on the beginning of day 3. And Yara and Lev just had a fight because, as far as I know, Abby, Mel, Owen, Lev, and Yara, they're all going to go to Santa Barbara because they're done with the battling, and they just want to get away from it. And Owen thinks Santa Barbara is going to be safe because apparently the Fireflies have regrouped in Santa Barbara. And Lev wants to take his mother, and Yara's like, there's no way our mom's going to go. She's full on into this group. She's bought into the cult. It's not going to happen. And Lev runs away, takes one of the boats. So Abby and Yara then have to go to the island that the Seraphites are in, leaving Mel and Owen to eventually die, basically, because it's the same day Ellie's coming. On our way to the island, we do find out that war is about to break out. We get to the island, which I love that I asked Dave yesterday, where are you at the game, I think? And Dave sent me the picture of his whatever was happening on his screen at that time, and it is Yara and Abby on the island looking at the town and the dozens of boats of the wolves heading to town for like their D-Day invasion. Which is it's dark, but it's such a cool visual of seeing all the boats, and you see that, and then you kind of hear Yara just being like, we've been preparing for this, like we're ready for this fight. And then you realize that like, shit, the wolves are not gonna this is not gonna go their way. Like, they do not have enough people. They might have the equipment, but they're going into enemy territory, and this whole level is Abby trying to find Lev during a war.
But real quick before that, because we missed something of like, I don't remember exactly how this ended up happening, but this is also the same day that you are in that sniper battle with Tommy on the highway.
Oh yeah, yeah. So you're on your way to get a boat. You meet up with Manny, and you and Manny basically have a face off with Tommy, which is really good. I was getting so scared, even though I know Tommy would have been fine technically, but I was just like, fuck, I don't want to face Tommy and have a one-on-one boss fight with Tommy. I don't want to kill Tommy. Tommy kills Manny. I was attached to Manny at that point, and I'm like, no, he killed Manny. Manny's my boy, and being like, forgetting almost that Manny helped kill Joel.
Manny's your boy because he has like sex dungeons all over Quarantine Zone.
And he likes anime, apparently. He likes Princess Mononoke. And that was such an intense scene. I'm so sorry I forgot it. But of you just running up, avoiding Tommy's sniper shots, and then having to face off with Tommy, that basically you push Tommy off the pier, and Tommy lands in the ocean. And then that's when you get on the boat to the island, and then you're sneaking around trying to find Lev.
Yeah, seeing the Seraphites base or their island like established was kind of cool because like all the building all the build up that they had been doing over the previous 2 character 3 days, almost like 5 days of character building of these Seraphites, and being able to see essentially them living off of natural resources.
Yes.
And then still battling with them though, like going through their farms and still having problems with them and fighting through them and dealing with some of the bigger people they had, and the hatchets and the the axes that they had, just very very fluid, very good combat, being able to use the water to your advantage. Like there was just a lot of mechanics in the game, and especially in this fight.
Yeah, it's funny. During this section, I could have stealthed my way through it. I did, but I still killed everyone because in my mind, I was now fully on board with Abby of just like, I'm going to kill some Seraphites because they suck. And also, they're going to kill my boys, the wolves. So I was like trying to take care of everyone I can. You do find out that like anyone who can't fight and the children were basically going to be put on a bunker and like escape the island. But everyone who could fight is going to fight. To defend the island. You come across Lev finally, and unfortunately you find out that Lev had to kill his mother because she tried to kill Lev. He tried to tell her, like, let's escape off the island, and she wasn't having it, and Lev then had to kill his own mother. You snap Lev out of the shock, and then Lev, Yara, and Abby start to run away, and then this is when stuff gets even darker. If it already wasn't dark enough, it continues to go down that road, and you basically get stopped by some wolves, and they quickly find out that like you're helping Seraphites, and the wolves then consider you a traitor. Isaac runs into you, and they're basically gonna probably kill you, and then they're gonna try and they ended up killing Yara. They shoot Yara, and then they're getting ready to kill you and Lev, or Isaac is, and then Yara goes out like a fucking boss and ends up killing Isaac before she gets just shot up even more, which is like horrible to see, but it gives Lev and Abby enough time to run away. And then we run into the city on fire. Do you want to take this section away? Because this is like a crazy set piece.
So they've got to get, they're trying to get off the island now at this point in time as fast as they can. And the fastest way to get off the island is to go to the core marina while this battle is going on. And it's the first time that Abby gets on a horse, at least in the game. And the horse is somewhat moving itself, like you're kind of just
I was so confused.
Yeah, you're pushing forward, I think but at the same time you're also shooting, and I thought for a second there we were controlling Lev, but it turns out that we were controlling Abby, and so she was able to control a horse with one hand and fire a gun with another hand.
Yeah, it was kind of on rails, kind of not. Like I was kind of confused if I could let go of like the left stick and like shoot my gun. So I still pretended to run.
And then so they were establishing that, and then you had this just brutal fight with a wolf,
The big dude.
Yeah, like a wolf bouncer essentially.
Was he a wolf or was he a Seraphite?
I don't really know.
I think he might have been a Seraphite. I'm not sure, but it was a big dude, and fuck is the gore crazy in this section.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he was still fighting.
Yeah, and then pulling the arrow out of him. Did you have to do that?
Yeah, and then just seeing his like cheek just completely cut through.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Like, and just the visuals in that scene are just intense because like you
The
see them
fire
fighting
and the destruction and
yeah, and at a certain point you're just like, what are they even fighting for? They're all fighting for Seattle that none of them have actual claim on. It looks hopeless for everybody. Like the wolves look like they're losing, but they're still fighting. The Seraphites look like they're losing, but they're still fighting. It's like one of those things where at the end of it, I don't know if anyone walks away a winner from that fight, which is probably the exact intention for the storyteller. But yeah, that whole area was just like, the scene was intense, and God, can Naughty Dog make death and stuff so pretty? Like their technical ability. But yeah, any specific thoughts from this or?
it was just like as we're getting to this point, as we're ending day 3 and we're kind of getting to we're moving back to my thoughts are in general is connecting everything to it to where you're back at the theater again, and so now that Lev is with Abby, and that Abby Abby's out to get on her way to the theater. I don't remember exactly how she finds out that they're at the theater.
So Ellie drops the map, and when
right, yeah.
we get that quick scene at the aquarium where Abby's standing over the bodies.
So she does the whole fight, and then she goes back to her and Lev go back to the aquarium.
Yes,
and
then
when
Lev picks up the map.
That's when she discovers that Owen and Mel are dead, and then they know the map, and then and they know where they're staying. So then she goes after them, saying that they killed my friends. So
yeah,
and you're still controlling Abby at this point, and that's when you see like you're starting to see like substantial, like the game is having substantial amounts of loss within these next 2 or 3 hours, of where you've lost Yara, you've lost you lost Yara and Lev's mother. You've as the characters Mel and Owen are dead. Manny's dead. Then you're seeing as the scene breaks, Jesse's dead. Tommy's we think I thought Tommy's dead.
I don't know how he didn't die.
So there's just there's so much loss happening here, and then you're having essentially a boss fight where Abby and Ellie are fighting, and
you as Abby.
Yeah, and it was hard.
I didn't want to do it. Like
it wasn't even a matter of wanting to do it or not wanting to do it. Like I have an easier way to like emotionally detach myself with something when I have a game mechanic, so it's just like, okay, so this is what I have to do to progress the story. But her Ellie's ability to set traps, Ellie's ability to move so fast.
Yeah, she plays completely different than Abby. She's quick, she's agile. It was definitely difficult. I died like 2 or 3 times during this fight.
Not being able to take her head on at all,
Yeah. I especially because like even when I did get the jump on Ellie, I didn't want to do it. And man, they make you go for it in this section. Like you were beating the shit out of Ellie, and it hurts.
I mean, I didn't necessarily want to do it, but I understood where the perspective was coming from. Like,
I was too. Yeah,
playing as Abby, like you know that this person just killed your friends in your family.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, and then having her under wraps, and getting ready to kill her, or Ellie's getting ready to kill you, and then Ellie gets hit with an arrow from Lev, or no,
Dina hits Abby, right? Is that what happens?
Yeah, like there's some context.
Either way, Dina saves. Dina saves Ellie.
Dina's fighting Abby, and then Lev shoots Dina, and Abby's getting ready to kill Dina, and Lev actually stops her. Like Ellie says that she's pregnant, and then Lev stops her from killing her, and they, Abby gets up and Ellie's, down on the ground, beat up. Dina's down on the ground, badly, badly hurt, and Abby just walks away.
Yeah, she says, if I ever see you again, or like stay out of my way or I'll kill you, and lets her go. Which I almost feel like was a perfect way to end this game. I know a lot of people are unsatisfied with the idea that they went through that and didn't get their kill, but much like the first game, characters can change their mind last second. Joel changed his mind last second. Abby saw this potentially as a possibility to break the cycle that we talked about earlier, that revenge cycle, that violence cycle, and this was her chance of stopping. And because Lev is the one that said, like, stop, Abby maybe was just like willing to stop for Lev and was going to let Ellie walk away. Because basically at this point, they're pretty much even. Like, as far as Abby knows, she killed Jesse, she killed Tommy, she fucked up Dina, killed Joel. And then when you go on Ellie's side, Joel killed her dad, and then Ellie killed all of her friends. So as far as they're concerned, or Abby's concerned, they're pretty much even. Mm-hmm. And they're both going to have to live broken and shitty for the rest of their lives, knowing that everyone died around them because of them. So I was kind of satisfied with how this went. Did you feel let down at all by it?
I don't know, because at that point in time they had spent, two halves of the, like a third of, or 2/3 of the game establishing the story of each of these characters to purposely kind of like split your mind, I feel.
Yeah.
And it was definitely interesting to think for a minute there that Abby's going to kill Ellie.
Yeah.
Or Ellie's going to kill Abby, and it's like, it was just, you understood both players' motivations going into it, because now you'd gone through both dynamics. I think it would have been, I don't know if it would have been as telling, but I think it would have been interesting to do each day as each character, instead of doing day 1, 2, 3 as one character and then day 1, 2, 3 as the other character, to maybe do day 1 as Ellie and then day 1 as Abby and then day 2 as Ellie and day 2 as Abby. It just to establish that a little bit more, because I felt like, and maybe on purpose, like Abby's story was more in the forefront at that moment because we had just spent so much time with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the way they did it. I don't know if I would want them to switch off every day, because I feel like it would have felt too forced at that point, but they could have switched off a little bit at the end, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe if their day 3 was a little more like together, as opposed to getting that huge 6 to 10 hour chunk. Yeah. As Abby. So I can see that being like, you might lean towards Abby more and kind of hate Ellie towards the end of that game. Yeah. Because they do a really good job of establishing Abby's life in that amount of time, as opposed to Ellie, who we had one full game as.
Yeah, which is fascinating in terms of a character written thing, that this is the person that killed Joel, the character that you controlled in the first game and you had an attachment to. And then by the time you're done with Ellie's story and Abby's story, you almost have as tight of an attachment to Abby as you did to Joel. At least I did. Yeah.
No, yeah, and I did. And they did it in way less time, which is super impressive. But the game's not over yet. So we get fast forward in time a little bit. Not too sure how much time.
I mean, obviously, like a year and a half.
It would, yeah, because now Ellie and Dina are on a farm and they are with the baby, whose name is JJ.
This was foreshadowed before, when they were like, after they left the bank in Seattle, if you got to the bank, of like, what would you do with all the money? And, then Dina was like, I just want, like, she wants the white picket fence life,
Yes. So yeah, she even said she wants to raise sheep on a farm.
Yeah.
So they are living that dream life, and it seems kind of perfect.
They
the
both
baby
seem very
JJ
happy.
Seems healthy. It's really sad. His name is JJ, which probably stands for Jesse Joel, or Joel Jesse. Mm-hmm. They have all these sheep. They seem pretty well secure, like fenced in, all that stuff. You even get a letter from Jesse's parents saying like they want to visit soon, but like Jesse's mom's back is hurting, so they'll visit soon, or they're always welcome in Jackson and they would love to raise the kid with Dina and Ellie. So it seems like they're living in paradise, but Ellie's still suffering from PTSD from what happened to
panic
Joel.
Attacks and
Yeah, all that, and it's pretty scary stuff to seeing Ellie like just in the middle of a mundane thing, like she was putting the sheep away, and then she just got flashbacks of Joel being killed, and just all the stuff that she saw, Jesse dying, all of her time in Seattle. So we get to see that, and then who might be the actual villain of the game? The next day, Tommy fucking shows up, missing an eye, and is just kind of an asshole to Ellie and Dina, because he finds out that Abby and Lev are in Santa Barbara, and he wants revenge. But he can't do it because he is missing an eye from when Abby shot him. So Tommy's really shitty. Dina kind of puts him in his place. He runs off, but then this ultimately leads to Ellie going after Abby one more time.
This is the part of the game. This is the part of the game that I didn't think needed to be there at all.
Yeah, it's a good section, but this is another point where it's like they could have ended the game at the theater. They could have actually ended the game here if they wanted to set up a third game. I'm glad they didn't end it here because I don't want a Last of Us 3 because I feel like the story is complete. They've told everything they need to tell in this world, but I was really worried that we were going to get credits when when Ellie left. I'm just like, son of a bitch, here we go again. And the game then jumps back to Abby. Abby and Lev do go to Santa Barbara to follow the lead Owen has, but it looks like it is a trap, and the Fireflies aren't reuniting. There is a group called the Death Rattlers, I believe, and they are basically horrible piece of shit slavers, and they kidnap Abby and Lev.
So you think that person that Abby communicated with on the radio was a Rattler?
Yes, I think so. The Rattlers tagged everything in that area. I think it was a trap to get Fireflies. Or anybody. You tell people like, hey, come here, this is safe for you, and then they would get people to come there, and then because when Abby's on the radio, the guy on the radio gives up way too much information that you wouldn't just give to someone on the radio. He tells them their location exactly, tells them how many people they have, all their supplies. He basically runs down like this dream list of things that you would want to hear if you're looking for refuge. And then they're immediately taken. So I'm assuming that was the bad guys on the radio, the Death Rattlers, just trying to trap people. And it's another spot. The game could have ended here, but at this point, that's too fucked up. So then we jump back to Ellie. And this is kind of the section that I almost feel like shows you that if they would have went back and forth each day, it probably wouldn't have worked, or the game would have had to been significantly shorter. Because at this point, when we jump back to Ellie again, I'm just like, oh my god, why? Ellie basically goes to Santa Barbara using, I think, Owen's boat, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think Abby took Owen's boat.
Oh, Abby took Owen's boat. Okay.
And then Ellie finds the boat. And then that's where she knows that she went into Santa Barbara. And so she starts kind of trying to follow the footsteps of where she was, going through that, running through some clickers, running through some other buildings. And then Ellie gets caught up in a trap where she's hung upside down, and she gets some serious damage done to her side.
Yeah. And they actually think that she's, like, I think she gets bit, and they, like, the guy points out, he's like, before the infection gets you. And it was just kind of funny because, like, Ellie just looked at it and just killed him once you found out Abby's location. Which I loved how the guy described Abby. He's like, girl with arms like mine, like my size as a description. And kills her. I was really worried Ellie was going to die of an infection to her side wound. And I thought the game was going to end with, like, Ellie dying from, like, a mortal wound.
Yeah, so she's going through this encounter with the Rattlers while she's trying to find Abby. And it felt like this encounter was like another layer of a faction in this game that I don't know really needed to be there.
Yeah, as soon as I found out they were slavers, though, I didn't stealth it. I just went in like a badass and just shot them up. They gave me so much ammo that I was just like, okay. And then the Death Rattlers had stupid things where they had clickers on chains to, I guess, be like alarms.
No, you could let
But
the
you
chains
can
go though. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I ended up doing. But like, I don't know why the Death Rattlers would have them there other than to be like a shitty alarm system that screams for no reason. So I just let them go, had them fight it out, and then I would just go in with the shotgun and a machine gun, clear everyone out. Like, I didn't let anyone survive.
Yeah, that silent auto rifle was cool, but it went through ammo so fast.
Oh, yeah. Unless you got a headshot right away, like you were burning through that clip. So you got to feel like a badass as Ellie for the first time. At least I felt, because like Ellie's a badass, but like in a different way.
Badass, yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a lot of running and gunning. She had at that point in time, I think I had my shotgun upgraded to like four shots in the barrel. And then I had that auto rifle, and there was tons of crowbars and pickaxes laying all over the place.
Yeah, like, so it was super easy to breeze through this, and you're motivated to just gun everyone down because they're piece of shit slavers. You find out that Abby and Lev are being punished for trying to leave because you release all the other people that are being held prisoner there. So in that scene, when you go into where they hold them all, there's one person guarding them, and they only have an axe. So you open a door, they swing the axe at you, and they miss, you kill them, and then you let the prisoners out, and then all the prisoners go to the lockers that are right next to them and pull out machine guns and stuff. And I'm just cracking up of like, why would that person just have an axe?
Yeah.
Like, all the guns are right there. But that's beside the point. They tell Ellie that Abby and Lev a couple days ago were put on punishment and are probably already dead. And we find out that how they punish prisoners at this internment camp or whatever it is, I whatever horrible thing that they're making them do, you find out that they just put them on pikes. They just put them on
on pillars. They call it like the pillars.
And there's just dozens of people on pillars, and it looks like they just let them starve out. And you find Abby, and she's just completely like just dehydrated. She's been starved. She's no longer like as muscular as she was before. Like, she's just like completely just broken. You see Ellie starts to feel bad for her, and she lets her down, and then Ellie starts to think of like, shit, am I actually going to do this? She's been wanting this revenge. She only really wants it for her PTSD at this point. She's hoping it fixes it. But I think she sees Abby in this condition, and she just feels bad for Abby. And the first thing Abby does is get Lev down. And then she tells Ellie, like, there's boats over there, not fully trusting Ellie, but is just like, at this point, like, if Ellie wants to kill me, Ellie can kill me. Mm-hmm. They get to the boats, and Ellie seems like she's going to let Abby go, but then she's just like, I can't do this. And Abby doesn't want to fight, but then you end up having like the most brutal fist fight, knife fight as Ellie versus Abby. So again, like the theater scene, you're controlling a character hitting another character that you probably don't want to see die. And it is brutal. It is violent. This was tough of a scene, because like you feel bad for Ellie, not only because you played her and like her as a character, but because she is just so broken compared to where she was a year later or a year before. But yeah, this was a tough scene. Thoughts on it, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, her threatening Lev to get her to fight. I didn't know like what I definitely not even sure if I felt like this needed to be in the game or not, like, because like while she's fighting her, she has that, like, there's a brief flashback where she sees Joel, and then seeing Joel makes her decide not to kill Abby. So that aspect, I'm not saying anything needs to be, I'm not on the team of like this needs to be rewritten and this needs to be done differently. Like, there's always been that interesting change or that interesting dynamic that I was expecting, with the as much character establishment as they had built in the game. Like, we couldn't kill either one of them.
Yeah. This definitely felt like, so I enjoyed everything about the story. I enjoyed how it ended. I was satisfied with it, but at a certain point it did seem like it was just too much. Like the game was just at this point a little too long. The epilogue went way longer than you expected. So
The
I loved how
Rattler section I felt like was just completely not needed.
yeah. Like they
could have
got
established
to
that
that
by
boat scene.
me going to Santa Barbara and finding her in a house or finding her on the boat on the beach of Santa Barbara, and the same concept could have happened without ever
they
having to
could've-
be in combat in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that I completely agree. They could have got to that boat scene another way. Like they didn't have to have us go through another couple dozen people to get to that death scene, or not death scene, to get to that fight.
Because we find out that there's so much loss that happens, and I understand that that's the like even the title. I was watching bits and pieces of some spoiler cast today, and somebody said something. I think it was on the Kind of Funny one. Christine Steimer said that if you really look at The Last of Us, like the name even has more of a resounding effect of it. Like, this is The Last of Us. And, and she's like, both of them, Abby and Ellie, lost so much to the point where, like, and Ellie loses 2 fingers where she can't play guitar anymore.
Yeah, which is like a beautiful, like, metaphor for just, like, that's like her connection with Joel, is being able to play that guitar.
And she ends up leaving that guitar at her house. They showed it. It was very interesting that, after she ends up letting Abby leave.
Because she does let Abby leave.
She lets Abby leave, so who knows where that goes, which is, I believe, is going to be a gate for them to use it to make a third game if they choose to.
Yeah.
And then she's back at the farm, and she gets to the farm, and, like we talked about that scene where Dina didn't want her to go, and, what about us, blah, 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 and I can't go through this again, and Abby, or Ellie's like, that's a choice that you have to make, and Dina made that choice, and Dina left. I mean, we can assume that she went to Jackson.
Yeah, because the open invitation from Jesse's parents.
But the house is
I love
empty.
that about Dina.
Yeah, the house is empty except for the room where it appears that Ellie, during that year and a half where she was staying there with them, was painting.
Yeah.
And then all of that is left intact. Like, Dina cleared out everything else in the house, but just didn't go in that room, which leads me to believe that she never went in that room after Ellie left.
Yeah, she had no reason to, because she told Ellie, if you go, that's it. I'm done. She gave her the ultimatum, and I love that Dina stuck with it. Mm-hmm. Like, Ellie doesn't deserve Dina at that point, because they've been through all that shit. They lost so much, and Dina begged Ellie not to go and gave her the ultimatum. Ellie said, fuck that, went on the death trip, and Dina stuck with it. I would have been so pissed if this game ended with Dina and Ellie embracing.
Hey, welcome back. Yeah. But I mean,
sorry.
both characters lost so much if you really break it all down. Like, Ellie lost her relationship with Dina. She lost Joel.
Lost Jesse.
She lost Jesse. She's pretty much at wit's end with Tommy. Everything, like, even, and Abby lost Manny and lost Owen and lost Mel and lost Yara. And he only has Lev,
Nora.
And Nora died, and Isaac died, and all these people that were, establishing her for her teenage life and her family. Like, she can't go back to Seattle. She ends
What's
up
even there?
She ends up trying to find, a new, more Fireflies, and gets caught in a trap. So, but now her and Lev are on the run together. They're not really running from anybody, but I could definitely see, like, a third game of, like, the random leftover wolf faction is looking for her, similar to how the wolves were looking for Joel. You could definitely see something like that happening. Be curious to see, like, we saw Ellie leaving her property, the farm property, to what we're assuming to go look for Dina, to see if Dina will take her back.
Which I hope isn't the case, just because, I stand by it. Like, Ellie doesn't deserve Dina at that point.
Yeah, just the amount of loss that was in this game is crazy. The amount, and I feel like this game was substantially more brutal than the first one. But the first one was brutal, but this game was substantially more brutal.
Yeah, I almost equate this to another movie thing, but it might be a dumb comparison, but Nicholas Winding Refn, when he made Drive, people complained about that movie just being too slow, not enough action, and then they, like, glorified some of the few action scenes and violence in that movie. So then he came out with Only God Forgives, and he just made it super brutal and violent. And I feel like there's some parallels between that of to where I don't know if you remember, but I think it was like the last PSX that they showed stuff for like either The Last of Us or The Last of Us Part 2. I'm pretty sure it was Part 2. But I remember there was... It actually might not have been PSX. It might have been like an E3 for The Last of Us. And I remember there being like an uncomfortable feeling when the crowd was cheering for all the violence happening in the trailer.
It was Paris Games Week.
Paris Games Week. And I feel like the Naughty Dog was so annoyed by people glorifying the violence that they doubled down on the violence, and they didn't want you to glorify and cheer the violence this time. They wanted you to feel how shitty the violence is and show you that every person that you're taking down or killing has a family. They're doing it for some reason. They're just trying to survive in this world, and Naughty Dog showed that. And I think a lot of people are struggling coming out of this game because, yeah, the game's fun to play, but you don't feel happy playing it, and you're not supposed to. And they emphasize that with Ellie just having a sad ending.
I also didn't feel depressed while playing the game either.
No, not depressed, but I'm sure even if you detach yourself, anxious, and just even if you detach yourself, punching Ellie as Abby probably didn't feel great, and punching punching Abby as Ellie or Ellie as Abby probably didn't feel great, even if you detach yourself from it. When you're on top of Ellie and you're just beating the shit out of her because of your connection to Ellie in the previous game and during this game, you don't feel great doing it. Like, I don't think anyone comes out of that feeling like some sort of adrenaline rush of like, hell yeah, beat the shit out of Ellie or beat the shit out of Abby. So they did a great job making you at least feel something for the characters.
So yeah, I mean, between the two of them, I've been thinking about this for most of the afternoon. I think I like the first game better than this one. It just seemed to, maybe it just was at the time when it came out, or it just seemed to resonate with me a little bit more. The first one was more of the father-daughter relationship thing, so maybe that's why it resonates with me a little bit more than this one of just a killing murder frenzy. I'm not, disappointed in the game. I don't hate the writing. I understand the motivations behind all of it. I enjoyed what I played. It's a great game, but it's just there was and I don't want to just sound so negative on the game. I mean, I put some of this on our Facebook group the other day. It definitely felt mundane at times, with a lot of filler at times, and no matter how much I scavenged, which I thought I was scavenging a lot, and when I look back at collectibles, I wasn't scavenging as much as I thought I was. There's a lot of stuff that I missed, which, I know you can't get it all in one playthrough. That's fine. But it definitely seemed like it was about, if I had to put a number on it, 6 to 8 hours too long.
Yes. So I think I like this game more than the first one. I just feel like the storytelling is at another level. It made me think more than the first one. Like, I've been thinking about this game for now almost 2 weeks. Yeah, right? The game's only been out a week and a half. I've been thinking about it though every day since I played it and since I finished it. And I didn't get that from the first game. Once I finished the game, I was like, oh, this is a good game, and I never really thought about it until they announced a sequel. And I've been thinking about this game consistently. So I think this game was significantly better than the first game, writing-wise, gameplay-wise. But I do agree with you that it might have been too long. I might be in a minority, but I would have been happy with it ending at the theater. I felt like the epilogue being 3 parts, it kind of drags. I'm still satisfied with the conclusion that they reached.
But they came to the same
conclusion in the theater.
They came to the same conclusion at the end of the theater that they came at the end of the beach scene.
And would you have felt better? I know you said it's long, it's like 6 hours. If it ended at the theater, would you feel a little bit better about it? Because they just basically replaced the theater, or they repeated the theater at the end, but you had to play an additional 2 to 3 hours to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have been okay with it. I still would have liked to have seen the scene at the farmhouse with Ellie and Dina, and maybe left it at that, and then maybe seen some kind of interaction with Abby leaving the hope to find the Firefly, so maybe leaving it there,
or DLC.
Yeah, even if that ended up being like we end up hearing eventually, like that's a trap or something like that. Um, I just I think introducing new characters like they did, even though we pretty much killed them all, but introducing new characters that late into the games felt a little off to me, like a new faction. I mean, and like, I guess the only thing I can think of is if this is establishing any kind of a third part.
So they announced Neil Druckmann, I think, confirmed on Kind of Funny or Twitter that there is no DLC plans for this game, and the way the epilogue played out, I almost feel like that was DLC, but COVID prevented it from being a longer DLC, so they just tightened it up as much as they could, because usually a DLC for a game like this probably would have come out like 3 months after release, something like that, maybe at the end of the year. I'm wondering, and this is me just hypothesizing, I have no idea.
Well, I think he actually said that halfway through production they decided that Ellie wasn't going to kill Abby.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about specifically the epilogue of like fighting the Death Rattlers and saving Abby. I feel like that is just DLC that they realize that they don't have the pipeline to do a full DLC that they tacked on at the end of the game. Because it just seems so weird to go to the farm and then being like, we're not done yet. And then you go on this stuff with Abby and then you play as Ellie and then save her. That almost feels like that was meant to be DLC. They couldn't produce it fully for logistical reasons because COVID is like completely screwed up development pipelines, and they were just like, okay, let's just focus. This might be why the game got delayed, when it was supposed to come out earlier in the year and it got delayed to June. I feel like that was just them switching gears of like, okay, no DLC, we're adding an epilogue to the game, and then this is what we got from it. Which is why the game kind of just stays a little too long, but overall I still like it. But I just have a weird feeling about like how this played out.
It's the first game in a very, very long time that I've sat down and just knocked out in like a week. Like, yeah, it's and it was significant, and some of it was for this, and some of it was fear of being spoiled. Some of it was just was everything. I love what I played. The dynamic was there. Some of the combat could be a little frustrating. Some of the stealthing could be a little frustrating. But, like, again, not every game is perfect. So, but, it was very important to us. It's like one of the first huge major AAA releases since we've established DDG. So for us to be able to do something like this is fun, and it's interesting. And we love to hear if you guys like this. This is one of the longest episodes that we've ever done.
Yeah.
And, but I feel like it needs it to be able to discuss to be able to discuss this. Maybe we'll put up a private channel in Discord of like where if you go in there, you know what you're going in there for, to have different conversations with people as they beat the game. But it's definitely one of these things where I'm happy that I played it. It's a great game, but it's not without flaw.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely flaws with it. And when you say like you like the first one better, you're not saying this game is a bad game.
No, I just think it resonated with me more.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying is like a lot of people that I've been reading, when they say they like the first game better, they're trashing the second game. But in your case, that is not that. You said multiple times, this is a good game, a great game. The first game just resonated with you more. And me, I love the first game as well, but I think the second game is better. But that's just... But like we just have slight difference on opinion on that, and that's no big deal.
There are things that happen in The Last of Us and the first Last of Us that still resonate with me to this day. And again, it could have just been the established time frame. I don't, as much as this game had the second one had really great storytelling, I just don't think there's something that I'm going to point at 2 years from now as an iconic.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to tell.
As an iconic moment right now. But I think at the same time, if you told me after I beat Last of Us, asking me what the iconic moment is, I would have just said what everybody else said and said the giraffe scene,
Yeah, exactly. And this one potentially has two of those, but you just beat the game this morning, so you won't know how long this resonates with you in a little bit. I beat it a week ago, so it still in my head means I feel like it
Yeah,
resonates
but like
more with me.
so what iconic moment do you feel like happened in that game? Like I guess the thing that what I thought was probably the most iconic moment that happened in part 2 was when Ellie killed Owen and Mel and realized that Mel was pregnant.
So for me, it is, I think the best Joel and Ellie moment in both games is the museum. So I think that's an iconic moment, like her in the space shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
Joel's death is going to be an iconic moment, but I feel like that's cheating to say it. And just the images of the island have been burned in my head of just seeing the wolves. Just like there's one part where I was looking at from the horse where a wolf is just swinging a machete at a Seraphite. Seraphite's shooting them down, but they're still fighting. That is stuck in my head. And then just the feeling I had in the theater, that is sticking with me. Of just that final fight where Ellie's on the ground and Abby's gonna kill Dina. That whole thing is stuck with me. I wish I would say the beach scene at the end was an iconic moment, but because we basically saw that in the theater, it doesn't stick with me.
Yeah, I mean,
I have multiple scenes that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, my concern is like, you know, I think that there's going to be a third, a Last of Us Part 3 or a Last of Us 3.
And I hope there isn't.
Yeah,
and I like The Last of Us 2 more than 1.
I hope that there isn't as well, but I think that there will be. My concern is if there is, like you're going to probably see Abby continue to try to either reestablish or find the Fireflies again.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Seraphite storyline is over and done with now. Like
they hint at that.
Yeah. So that's over and done with. And then there might be some residual wolves around, but the majority of the important characters from the wolves have been killed.
Yes.
I mean, they could do some kind of play. Like obviously I didn't necessarily expect to find out that Abby was the daughter of the doctor that Joel killed to save Ellie. I think that was a fascinating way of connecting the two worlds, since they didn't really even hint that Abby existed in the first game as a daughter of his.
Mm-hmm. But they made her plausible with how they wrote her into it. The thing is, if they do a third one, it can't be about revenge, because that would be just redundant. It would have to be a completely new thing of like Abby and Lev establishing themselves in this new world. Especially for
or
Lev.
Trying to find Ellie because of her being immune, like something would happen with the disease.
God, I would hate that so much, but that would be a possibility where they have to go to her and Ellie's just like, you found me again. It's, oh God. I would love a team up with Abby and Ellie, but at the same time,
that's what I was really worried about was going to happen. That we were going to free Ellie or free Abby from the jail, and we were going to team up against the Rattlers to get out.
Oh God, yeah, I had that fear too.
Yeah.
Of just like, oh, it's going to be a team up, and I don't really need that. I like the idea they go their separate ways. If The Last of Us 3 would have come out, I would hope Ellie's not in it, to be completely honest.
Right.
Like, I think it would have to be Abby and Lev.
I watched, like I said, I putzed around on YouTube and stuff this afternoon, and I watched a couple things. Just trying to. I didn't like delve into anything or take any notes on anything. If anybody knows me well enough, I'm not really that big of a note taker. I do a lot of stuff off the cuff. I react to a lot of stuff that Michael says or other people say in terms of they make me think and establish questions. But one of the YouTube's videos I listened to or watched, and I was kind of half asleep during it, was it almost is like there should have been a game between these two, like establishing the characters a little bit better, like like establishing Abby's story of finding out who Joel was and how he was and how she ended up finding the wolves. Like
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
But go keep. Sorry.
No, I mean just because it was all of a sudden like she was there, and we found out a lot about her relationship with the Scars, but we didn't really find out a lot about a relationship of how she found Joel or how they found out that Jackson was there, or because just how word gets around, more or less Abby's, like it could have been a little bit of a story of both of them of how Abby's adjusting to life, of in more moments in between those flashbacks.
Yeah, I think you would have to do that after Last of Us 2 instead of between, just because if we knew about Abby and her relationship to the story before part 2, it would have deflated all the big moments. Like Joel's death would have been like an inevitability as opposed to a surprise. we wouldn't have felt that much for Joel. We would have went into the second one wanting to kill Joel, and then playing as Ellie wanting to avenge Joel. It would have made things messy. But I do like the idea of, if we do a Last of Us 3, or if Naughty Dog does a Last of Us 3, we get flashbacks that do fill those gaps for Abby, kind of like how this one filled the gaps for Ellie and Abby. But a part 3 of Abby and Lev trying to find their place, and then we get flashbacks establishing how exactly Abby got involved with the wolves from the Fireflies and all that, which could be super fascinating. And then use that as like a way to tell Lev's story of like a kind of a fish out of water trying to readjust from their lives. And there could be some like good parallels between Abby learning her place in the wolves and Lev learning her place in like a non-cult world.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, let us know what you guys think as you played, and hopefully beat the game, or let us know your thoughts. I mean, we're almost at a 3-hour show here, so
yeah,
it's definitely getting long-winded. And I hope we didn't like bore anybody or go into too much detail, but it's the first time we've done this, so like any kind of feedback is always appreciated. And then let us know, like, please don't post anything on Twitter or Facebook, in the Facebook group, like publicly spoiling this game. If there is a tangible desire to do something, like I can figure something out on Facebook maybe to hide things, or I can pin something and then people can stay out of the comments.
I like the idea of a spoiler room in the Discord.
Yeah, right, like a channel in Discord, so you guys can join the Discord.
Just for spoilers,
and there's a separate channel that where you guys can come in there and talk about what you've seen, and then people can go in there. You click on that, knowing that like. That can be where the discussion is, and that's a safe place to spoil the game. But again, just let us know what you guys think. Again, feedback, reviews, and sharing the show is always appreciated. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, and we'll see you next week. I think this is going to be a normal episode for this week.
Yeah, I don't really even know how to end these things. So
yeah. That was our spoiler cast for The Last of Us Part 2. If you want to talk spoilers, feel free to email podcast@digitaldaysgaming.com. Because we won't read your email on the next episode because it would be too spoilers, but I will totally reply to an email if you want to go back and forth on anything. And Dave will hop into, we have access to that email, so we can definitely have some discussions in email.
So email us, podcast@digitaldaysgaming.com. Post in Facebook if you want a Discord invite, or if you need a Discord invite, the link's in the description of the show notes. And then post in the general chat, like, hey, let's, if a couple people post that they really want that private channel, like it takes me 2 minutes to create that channel. It's not a big deal. So
yeah.
But I hope everyone has enjoyed the game. I hope everyone enjoyed this content, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.
See ya.